Welcome back to Memes and Markets. Keith, how are you, man?
Today's the best day of my life. Ben, how you feeling?
Today is perfect. We have an awesome guest with us, so I'll throw it back to you, Keith, so you can intro Smoke and we can get into it.
We've got Smoke in the building. Smoke is anonymous, everybody. So no one actually knows who Smoke is, but we do know that Smoke is a well-followed researcher in the XRP community, especially on X. And over the past 2 months, he has narrowed down almost entirely to one sort of major thought, which is that XRP is entering a utility phase where institutional demand, not speculation, is what's going to set the price of the XRP token. So I would love to kick it to you, Smoke. How you feeling?
I'm feeling great. I'm very grateful to be here with you both. Looking forward to the conversation today.
Fantastic, man. Fantastic. You know, I have some of your thesis here, and it's this idea that XRP has spent most of its life as a speculative asset, trading on pure narrative, and that era is ending. What's coming next is demand tied to actual use, banks and payment networks routing real transactions through Ripple's infrastructure, and stablecoins settling on the XRP ledger. And the final piece right now seems to be that regulators are building the legal and regulatory scaffolding that will let institutions actually be able to touch XRP and whatnot without having major career risks.
Sounds about right.
So talk to us about, like, there's obviously a ton of FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, a lot of just pure hate, even, I would say, for the things that are happening in the XRP and Ripple community. I think there's two different things there. There's people who don't like it. There's people who understand it and don't like it. And there's people who just don't necessarily actually get it and see it. For the people who don't see it at all, like what's happening with XRP and why is this something that's so important for people to pay attention to?
It's a very good question, and you definitely summarize it very succinctly and concisely earlier, just mentioning and emphasizing that the next phase of adoption for crypto will be driven by utility as opposed to speculation. And that exact idea and concept is exactly what I would say blinds the average investor, the average retail investor, to truly what the value behind this protocol, behind this token will be in the future. And when we think of just the short history that crypto has had since the release of Bitcoin in 2009, we're only on about year 17 of adoption. Meanwhile, we are finally receiving the rules for the road. We're finally receiving the clarity that this technology has deserved, the clarity that this technology needs to truly reach its full potential. And something that I've always truly understood about XRP, just as an asset, as the company backing the asset, Ripple, the design of the token, the intention of the integration of the token into the future financial infrastructure, that has always been centered around the idea of excessive digital liquidity, more rules for these assets to finally thrive, and also more applications built upon these public blockchains like stablecoins, DeFi-based apps. And just going back to the point of why aren't people seeing this at this moment, and that is because of the massive prevalence of speculation that has dominated price action for the last 3 to 4 crypto cycles. And this is the first cycle that we're seeing utility being introduced as a factor, utility being introduced as a catalyst for price action. And XRP has been a token that has been built for regulated financial infrastructure use instead of speculative pump and dump, speculative price appreciation events. And this is something that has attracted retail and even institutional investors to an extent. But now this shift, this changing cycle that we're seeing prices behave in a manner that we've never seen before. We're seeing new regulated players interacting with public blockchains for the first time. And we're also seeing cryptocurrency being taken seriously at a government level, international jurisdictions, a global regulator level for the first time, and not ignore it like it has been in the past few years. And this is the moment that Ripple, the company, that XRP Ledger, the public blockchain, this is the moment that it was built for. As utility is finally being prioritized, these assets are being judged on their fundamentals. These assets are being judged on their integrations and the regulators that they are abiding by. And just the overall, I would say, positive investment thesis for this moment exactly is that for the entirety of XRP's life cycle, it has not truly reached its full potential because of the, I would say, lack of comfortability from regulators, from banks, from payment applications. But that comfortability is now being seen as we're seeing much higher institutional optimism on this technology to truly bring efficiencies to the system that has never existed before. And XRP is certainly a leading candidate as being just the most efficient, the most scalable, and essentially the blockchain that had regulated banking integration in mind from day one. And finally, we're at that phase where XRP can truly shine in the way that it was designed to.
So, Smoke, we had someone on X reach out before the episode asking some really interesting questions. So I want to point these out and pose them back to you. So Michael said he's excited, and he asked this first question here is, when you say we're entering a utility phase, unlike anything we've seen in crypto, what specifically do you mean? What changes in the financial system that makes this phase fundamentally different from other cycles?
That's actually an amazing question. And diving specifically on what makes utility versus speculation much different, I would say the size of capital that is associated with utility versus speculation. Now, when we think of the forces that drive speculation versus the forces that will drive utility, we have to think of just the profile of the investors that are associated with those concepts. So speculation, again, as I mentioned earlier, retail investors are accustomed to prices of cryptocurrencies moving as a result of social media mentions, as a result of exchange downloads, Google searches on Bitcoin's price. These are all things that were really good metrics to track and watch, just the excitement and the frenzy and the bullishness around the prices of crypto assets, even alongside the 4-year cycles. However, the cycle that we're in now, if you can even call it a cycle, the shift in momentum, the shift in focus, and also the shift in capital and change in the investor profile that is currently dominating capital flows. That's one of the most specific, I would say, unique changes between this cycle and prior cycles, is that the presence of institutional investors, the presence of professional wealth managers entering the space changes the entire flow and the entire rhythm of the space, as retail investors have notoriously, again, dictated where prices went as a result of their emotions, as a result of their frenzy-based trading. But now institutional investors who are much more mature have applied much more sticky capital, which means that they are not likely to sell as a result of fear-based headlines, are not likely to sell as a result of volatility. These are all things that are contributing to decreasing volatility in the market, decreasing volatility in Bitcoin's price, alongside a wide range of regulated blockchain-based products coming into the market. These are all things that have not existed in prior cycles, and these are all things that is actively shifting how capital flows. And this also answers why there's so much confusion and frustration from the retail side on the price behavior of cryptocurrencies, because they are moving in a way that they are unfamiliar with. This unfamiliarity is causing a high level of course, disdain for the price moves that we're seeing and the progress that we're seeing, but understanding that there's new catalysts, that there's new factors that are playing into this market, like utility, which is, again, the application of these blockchain-based networks, the application of these crypto assets to actually bring a use case, bring a solution to financial markets, to wealth managers and banks, to bring new efficiencies to clients of these financial institutions. These are just a few of the reasons that make this entire cycle just feel differently, and as well as the fading irrelevance of the 4-year cycle, which also dictated capital flows, just essentially was a symbolic time frame for Bitcoin's price and just overall altcoin prices in general. But we're seeing just a lot of the speculation reduce. Even in the last few days, or even the last few weeks, we've seen, I would say, bad news after bad news when it comes to headlines regarding the Iran war, regarding oil, regarding Michael Saylor selling, cold wallet hacks. These are all things that in traditional cycles and traditional a traditional crypto landscape would have driven the price of Bitcoin much lower than 60K, which we've seen rebound. The price of Bitcoin rebound significantly from that level. And this essentially confirms that the pattern of prior cycles is broken, as we would have drawn down significantly as a result of bad news. Bitcoin, the overall crypto market, is behaving in a much more resilient manner, which again certainly confirms that the pattern is broken from prior cycles, and we're moving into an entirely new phase known as the utility phase.
So for someone who's looking at Ripple and XRP and they're saying this is complete vaporware, like there's nothing here, banks don't need XRP, this doesn't matter. What is the actual efficiency that XRP is bringing to the financial world? In what way does this make the financial world more efficient in ways that others also couldn't do as well?
Got it. I think that's amazing. Skepticism that a lot of people may have, because it's amazing to me, because when I look at, just all the research that I do on a regular basis, this is something that I'm locked into 24/7 with updates and receiving them throughout the day. And I've been doing this for, a few years at this point. And since I first came across XRP, when I first came across just the category of utility-based tokens meant for and designed for financial use cases and enterprise grade solutions, this immediately to me just opened my eyes to see that cryptocurrency is not just meme coins. Cryptocurrencies are not just speculative technologies that will come and go. Understanding that tokens like XRP actually have a real use case behind it, such as faster and efficient value transfer within banking systems and regulated financial intermediaries, and also understanding massive market trends that are happening in this financial system, like the decreasing usage of correspondent banking. If you understand the basics of correspondent banking, that is essentially the antique technology behind the financial system that is the result of slow cross-border payments, 3 to 5 business days to settle a transaction. And this is exactly the gap within the financial system that XRP was designed to solve. And this is not something that is theoretical or hypothetical anymore to anyone who's critical of the network. We are seeing the most influential and powerful institutions move towards tokenizing assets on XRP Ledger, move to issuing stablecoins on XRP Ledger. Societe Generale is one of the most recent examples of a major global systemically important bank that is issuing tokenized cash on the XRP Ledger as a result of its efficiencies, as well as XLM as a second blockchain that they're issuing that stablecoin upon. So when we think of just the criticisms of the XRP Ledger is not bringing any efficiencies to the financial system, or that it's complete vaporware, as you mentioned, there is, I would say, many institutions and many regulated banks disagree with that, and central banks are choosing the most efficient blockchains who are pioneering blockchain adoption within regulated financial services. And the XRP Ledger has been mentioned on many different occasions as being a blockchain a blockchain unicorn that is leading the way for actual utility in the next phase of crypto adoption. And even Ripple has been acknowledged as a blockchain unicorn company as well. That is certainly a disruptor in this next phase of blockchain adoption.
One thing I want to get back to a little bit is from the retailer's perspective, in their view on the market at large, but also XRP, where it's fascinating for me to watch how much optics and emotion plays a role with how something is seen. And I think a lot of people, it's a commonly held belief, even for crypto holders, that they're too late to the game. Like all the money to be made in crypto has already been made. What do you say when people say that to you in terms of being too late?
That is very, relevant to me as well, because that was my first thought when I got into crypto, when I seen how even Bitcoin, I believe the first price I seen or started to truly look at what opportunity existed in Bitcoin was about, I think, $3,000 when it fell during COVID. Of course, I first entered crypto in late 2017, early 2018, and that wasn't, the part of my career where I started to do deep research. That was more so 2019, 2020. But in 2017, I received some Bitcoin from a mentor of mine. And at that point in time, I had no idea what it was. I wasn't even into investing, wasn't into financials at all. However, he sent me that Bitcoin and I was wondering what it was. And just after a brief conversation. And he FaceTimed me. He was just in the mountains of China and just had a very expensive camera that he was talking about for years. And he told me that he got rich off of Bitcoin, his Bitcoin investment, and he sent me just about, I think, $100 worth of it at the time. Didn't do anything with it, but essentially at that point in time, I remember just discussing it, thinking that I was just too late, but it was a cool invention, a cool thing to come across, and would talk about it with people, but of course wasn't investing my own money. But as time went on, as I began to truly understand that it wasn't just Bitcoin, there were other assets that were in this asset class. I started to begin to see that there were other opportunities within this space to generate the same amount of returns if you were a early Bitcoin investor, if you were someone who had the foresight to see where Bitcoin was going, where the how undervalued it was at low levels. And we're seeing that same opportunity within infrastructure-based altcoins that are being chosen by governments and banks to deploy their internal technologies upon. And as I mentioned earlier, I thought I was late, back in 2018, 2019, but that was far from the truth, as very little adoption was happening. And even in the last 2 years, this is the most blockchain adoption that I've ever seen. And again, I've been here since 2017, and seeing this space accelerate in this manner, and also seeing the projections and seeing the forecasts of institutions, and also understanding the big picture that we're discussing hundreds of trillions of dollars, and of course, in the long term, quadrillions of dollars to essentially migrate to blockchain-based rails. I think understanding just the small market cap size of the cryptocurrency market versus the addressable market size that it's targeting, such as real estate, cross-border payments, the derivatives market. These are all everything that is certainly going to be touched by blockchain technology. And for anyone who's feeling like they are late or missed the opportunity, you will be delighted to know that you're likely right on time if you start to take this opportunity seriously right now.
Yeah, man, I think it's so funny to watch, because I think a lot of people who have looked into a little bit of the blockchain thesis, if they aren't invested, it's because they kind of feel like it's not going to happen, and they feel like we're Chicken Little, because we've been saying this for a very long time. So I think people have just become numb or desensitized to it. But when a seismic shift like this takes place, like, your future purely gets dictated by like which side were you on, kind of thing. So it does confuse me why people fight this so much when everyone's begging for opportunity, but it's usually hiding in the places everyone's ignoring. I also do understand there's so much going on in the world, but I also think that may be part of it all too. So yeah, appreciate you answering that.
Yes, and I would just add that this is something that I've been just discussing more consistently recently, is that this isn't, a completely abnormal phenomenon of people just overlooking an obviously great opportunity and obviously great investments such as crypto technology. Even if you aren't invested into XRP, there's of course, plenty of great technologies to invest into. You should definitely understand that, like all new technological shifts, there's only a handful of winners. So I don't suggest, being exposed to 20 to 30 different blockchain-based companies, definitely being selective and only choosing a handful of winners. And that's exactly why I'm personally focused on ISO 2022 compliant tokens. XRP is my largest holding, simply because of the unique use case that it's going to bring to the financial system. However, it doesn't cover every single niche use case that the new system will requires. And that's why that's the rationalize the existence for other blockchains like XLM, XDC, HBAR, Algorand, IOTA, Cardano, Quant. These are all tokens that I'm definitely bullish on as well. And not just because of, emotional feeling or, a personal thesis that I have. These are all tokens that are being integrated into regulated banking flows at this moment, and banks and I would say derivatives, back-end clearing settlement systems. These are all systems that are migrating to these blockchains specifically, and also just providing a new use case that cryptocurrencies have not truly brought forth to the system as a notoriously speculative asset class. We are seeing these cryptocurrencies bring a utility that these banks have been asking for. And again, these list of 8 compliant tokens are the tokens I'm the most bullish on.
So, Smoke, somebody who's listening to this, I can hear like they're like, okay, that sounds amazing, but what does XRP actually do?
I understand. Definitely can make it a lot more simpler. So when we think of just I think a great analogy would be Amazon and just how it began and how it grew to one of the largest software companies in the world. I think when we hear the name XRP, we immediately go to cross-border payments, and that's something that is certainly a very lucrative market share to target. That's something that Brad Garlinghouse himself has said that we have. That was our original goal, is to modernize the 180 trillion cross-border payment system to essentially provide a alternative to SWIFT, that is the traditional cross-border payment system that, again, is responsible for correspondent banking. As I mentioned earlier, the correspondent banking system is drastically falling in use. It's drastically falling off in relevance. Therefore, a new solution is required to essentially improve how cross-border payments move, to improve the way that velocity, to improve the velocity in which money moves. And XRP, the XRP ledger, the XRP token, being a integral and fundamental part of this blockchain that is being integrated within all of Ripple products that are geared towards enterprise grade use cases and banks. Owning XRP, owning a piece of this blockchain-based protocol, means that you are now owning a piece of the new solution for the financial system. And this is something that is a, trillions of dollars of value that is being transacted on the solution. So if you've ever wanted to truly, I would say, get ahead of a massive trend that is going to be very lucrative, owning XRP because of the efficiencies, because of the solutions that will provide to the new system, is essentially a big part of the investment thesis a lot of XRP holders have. But outside of the judgment, view, and perspective of retail investors, understanding that institutions coming into this space, institutions that have a preference for tokens that are compliant, or preference for tokens with an actual use case and efficiencies, is essentially how you can set yourself up to pick the winners of the new most valuable companies in the world. As I would say, a perfect analogy would be the Magnificent Seven. I just listed off to you guys 8 ISO compliant tokens, very close to truly understand that that's around the range when you're looking at a new wave of revolutionary companies. That's essentially the number that you're going to get, the handful of companies that you should be selective on and disciplined and patient in your approach with investing your capital behind them. And the companies that I just mentioned, of course, Hedera, the Stellar Foundation, they all have their own native assets that you can accumulate as well. But the XRP token, which is associated with the Ripple company, this is certainly the token you want to own if you want to essentially own the next solution for improving the financial system.
Love it, man. So fun question from the chat, little thought exercise here. So Brandon asks, what if XRP was the same price as Bitcoin right now? Which one would you invest in? Would it change your outlook on XRP, or are you just liking XRP for the sole reason that it's $1?
So me personally, my average accumulation price for XRP has been 11 cents. So for me, it's always been being able to have the opportunity to accumulate that token at such cheap levels with its use case, with its projections, and of course being undervalued and not reaching full adoption. And of course, going back to what I mentioned earlier about feeling like I was late to just the Bitcoin party. In some ways I was, some ways I wasn't, but essentially I did want to lock in exponential gains if I was going to truly take cryptocurrency seriously, and understanding how far Bitcoin came from being 1 cent per token on its early days, and understanding that tokens with even more utility that are going to be even more valuable and even more useful than Bitcoin in the future, and that seeing that they were under 10 cents, 5 cents, 2 cents in the case of XDC and IOTA. No, I would not, pursue a token that was as expensive as Bitcoin. As I thought I was late at $3,000 per Bitcoin. I think $100,000 per Bitcoin, or even $80,000 per Bitcoin, is not necessarily the price levels to create wealth, more so preserve wealth. And that's exactly I would say, role that Bitcoin is continuing to solidify for itself. And that's the role of digital gold in this space, to preserve long-term wealth. And I'm certainly bullish on that investment case for Bitcoin, that I don't think it's going to go to zero or decline in value over the long term. However, the opportunity, and this is something that has been highlighted by institutions as well, the opportunity for more attractive returns lies within altcoins. Undervalued altcoins, by the way.
There's a few things that I want to get into, but first I want to address that piece about Bitcoin. So a Bitcoin maximalist is going to say, you've lost your mind. XRP and everything else is going to zero versus Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is the only actual true form of money today, what would you say to that?
That can be 100% true, that Bitcoin can be a true form of money, that Bitcoin can be one of the best stores of value that exist out there. However, Bitcoin is not payment infrastructure. Bitcoin is not being acknowledged as an efficient payment technology to be integrated by the largest wealth movers in the world. And that's not just for personal preferences or emotional reasons, it's for technical reasons. So one of the key differences between Bitcoin and XRP is that Bitcoin is based on a proof of work infrastructure or proof of work model versus versus XRP, which is proof of consensus, which is also built on the Byzantine fault tolerant model. And this is a model that has been acknowledged by Federal Reserve researchers. And this is something that, anyone can verify for themselves. But the Byzantine fault tolerant model has been acknowledged as a more scalable, efficient, and just environmentally friendly consensus model for blockchains like the XRP ledger, XCC, and XLM. And this is why they're chosen as candidates to be introduced and integrated into regulated banking infrastructure, as opposed to tokens like Bitcoin and Ethereum, who currently don't have a known issuer. And this is something that is acknowledged by EU micro regulations, their form of the Clarity Act and crypto legislation. They have acknowledged Bitcoin and Ethereum as tokens that fall outside of the system and tokens that are not likely to be integrated into regulated banking banking capital flows. And this is a major differentiator between the two categories of tokens of efficient utility infrastructure blockchains versus speculative tokens versus tokens that are not driven by utility and simply driven by, I would say, just retail bullishness or retail speculation. Bitcoin and of course Ethereum as well are becoming more regulated, or they're more regulated financial products are being built around both assets, which allow them to essentially become more closer to, I would say, more traditional assets like stocks, equities, precious metals. But when we think of the direction of utility assets, of the path of integration that assets like XRP and XLM are facing, this is extremely different paths of adoption. And the trillions that are associated with utility, the trillions that are associated with being a payment infrastructure token, is drastically different than Bitcoin, which will certainly serve its role as digital gold, certainly serve its role as a efficient store of value. However, the opportunity to invest in these undervalued tokens before they become integrated into trillion-dollar payment flows is equally as massive.
I appreciate the ability to look at those two things in tandem, right, and not have to. A lot of the times, people will come to Bitcoin and say it's completely worthless, right, and that it has no utility, no use case. It's slow, clunky, and therefore will never be used as currency. There's also that debate, right, like currency versus store of value. How do you think about that piece of the argument of where Bitcoin sits as well? Like, I mean, you've touched on this quite a bit, but um, if someone were trying to protect, right, does it make more sense to buy Bitcoin and less sense to invest in XRP, which seems very speculative up to now, right? Like, so let me put it this way: the thing that I've changed about my views on XRP and Ripple over the past 6 months is that I can sit back and I can recognize that for Bitcoin, everything that would need to happen for Bitcoin to be what the Bitcoiners and Bitcoin maximalists say it's going to be has already happened. Whereas with XRP, all the things that someone is saying that's going to take XRP to crazy price levels, is going to be financial infrastructure of the new world, those things have not happened yet. How do you reconcile that reality?
That's a very good point to make. And, I would definitely just highlight another aspect of the Amazon analogy. And this is also documentation that I could definitely show you guys. But, um, back in the early days of Amazon, the first few years, Jeff Bezos and his entire company and the concept behind Amazon was actually being ridiculed on front page newspapers. And even before that, the internet was being written off as a fad. I'm sure you guys have just seen videos and throwbacks of that. But, when we think of Amazon now as an investment, Amazon now as a company, as a stock, and even Jeff Bezos as a CEO, I would even say it's blasphemous to discuss them as being a poor company, poor technology, poor leadership, as now in hindsight, it's one of the most sure thing investments that, you could ever imagine. But that does not take away from the fact that Amazon had a rough few years. Tesla had a rough few years. But now, just, decades later, it's completely clear and obvious of their value. And I bring up these examples to highlight and just bring attention to the fact that, if that's one of the only criticisms that, people have of XRP and Ripple, there's plenty of analogies to truly understand that the companies that go the farthest were not the companies that, were successful first, were not the companies that took off first value wise, stock price wise. And when we see the preparation, the foundation that Ripple has built, it's very similar to companies that have built strong foundations to expand beyond their original use cases, such as Amazon starting as an e-commerce book company and expanding to one of the largest software companies in the world. And Ripple is expanding from just a cross-border payments company to a full stack technological financial infrastructure fintech company that is bringing all of the use cases for new efficient payment technology to regulated banking clients in a way that I haven't seen before, that there's not a comparable system to the Ripple network and the XRP ledger. And even something that makes me even more bullish on RippleNet and their technology is that a recent survey from Fireblocks, this is a institutional custody service provider, the top 500 C-suite banks and executives in the world all were asked, what are they looking for fintech companies and crypto assets that they're partnering with, that they're seeking to integrate their technology with. And it was directly 90% a consensus agreement that 99% of these C-suite executive banks were looking for full stack companies, for fintech companies that were building out full stack infrastructure. And with all of Ripple's recent acquisitions, with G Treasury, with Ripple Prime, Rail, Medico, Ripple's custody service, this puts Ripple in a prime candidate to be, again, chosen first, to be selected as the premier payment infrastructure, I would say, updater for banks and just institutions that are interested in blockchain technology, that are interested in using crypto assets to make their systems much more efficient. We're even seeing direct statements from the likes of Bitwise, from the likes of Wisdom Tree, to buy and accumulate tokens, layer ones like XRP, because layer ones is exactly what banks and I would say payment application providers are all deploying their technology upon. There's definitely different layers of blockchain technology, such as layer zeros, layer twos, and layer threes. But another survey confirmed that layer ones like XRP are being selected by just the people that we deem smart money, the people that we deem as the professional wealth managers of crypto. And, that's essentially a big part of my investment thesis, a big part of why I see the value of XRP, despite the slow short term, despite the, speculative path that has marked this price action and the path that it's been moving at. And there's just, again, a lot of institutional optimism on the future of the asset.
Yeah, I think people forget that most of the things that define our current existence were seen as like fringe, never going to happen, absolute BS, vaporware, all that stuff. And I went to a different room in my house to get a picture that I have of myself reading a newspaper where the headline is Internet Survival Guide. And that was in like 2000, I want to say. People were still basically saying like it's a fad, it's gonna like hurt you, all this stuff. There's all this big stuff about like you can't buy anything online. Remember when that was a thing, that no one would buy anything online? We see how that all aged. So yeah, I think that's an important lens of analysis, is to like, what are the comparables, and also how long has it been since these foundational layers that dictate how we transact have been updated? Like they're quite primitive too, so it's long overdue, but it's inevitable to happen, is how I see it.
Can you show us the picture, Ben?
Yeah, I was a little kid though, so I don't want to get like any sort of like CP flag. You know what I mean?
Okay. Oh, wow. Okay.
But I'm sitting there reading the newspaper, and it happens. This one picture is in like all of my family's bathroom, because I'm sitting on the toilet pretending to read a newspaper like my grandpa did, and it happened to be the article of Internet Survival Guide. I was like, that is crazy.
Bro, that's a sick album cover.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. If I ever drop an album.
Speaking of that, everyone's saying that, or people are saying you sound like Reggie Miller. You got to point that out. That's funny. But so okay, I got to keep pushing back. So I wanna see, like can we acknowledge that what's happening with XRP requires a lot of speculation? I've got a question here from Michael again that I think is a good one. He says, look, if we're truly on the verge of a utility phase, unlike anything crypto has seen, why hasn't the market already begun pricing in that utility? Institutions have had years to build tokenization, stablecoin, and settlement infrastructure. I'm going to follow up on this a little bit too. He says, can you separate what is already happening from what you believe is going to happen? I think that's extremely important because when we look at, okay, now I'm talking now, the DTCC going live with tokenization this year, not using the XRP ledger, in fact, using the Canton network and things like XLM Stellar as well, I believe, in some of the mix of the different things that they're using. How can you look at that and say that that's totally cool? Even the SocGen using XLM as well, like there seems to be a lot of competition where it feels like in the XRP community, XRP is the only answer for what's going to be used. How do we reconcile the speculation between what's supposed to happen or what's possible, all the partnerships, but has not happened yet, and then also seeing things start to roll out and it not necessarily including or exclusively being XRP?
So I'll definitely be the first guy to, say that, XRP isn't going to be everywhere. XRP isn't going to fit every single use case. It's definitely, as I mentioned earlier, is a part of Ripple's full stack technological system that banks prefer, that banks are moving forward to. And when we think of things like the DTCC, mentioning just a handful of blockchains, and they have also openly stated, Nadine Shakar from DTCC stated that they are not stopping at Stellar and Canton and Chainlink. And also, I think one detail that is consistently overlooked regarding just Ripple's involvement with the DTCC is that Ripple Prime has been directly named as a contributor towards DTCC's tokenization program. So Ripple Prime definitely uses XRP in many different ways in its internal services outside of Ripple Prime participating and being a contributor to the tokenization program. The DTCC also acquired a company called Securrency. Securrency and their side of their blockchain resource toolkit contain XRP and XLM. So when we think of the path of integration that the DTCC took when it came to even choosing XLM, the same toolkit that contains XRP within their acquisition, Securrency, they reached in and grabbed XLM. So the same path of integration that XLM was able to achieve from the DTCC through the integration, XRP has as well. And even outside of that integration, another participant within the DTCC's working group is Fireblocks. Fireblocks is a company that has both XRP and XLM integrations. As we can see here, as you can see where I'm going here, there's plenty of paths and avenues for the XRP token to reach the DTCC system. And when we think of just the, I would say, order in which they're announcing these public blockchains, first and foremost, regulated financial infrastructure moving towards public blockchains, and XRPL being one of the premier public blockchains for enterprise use case. This is something that, of course, is just good for XRPL in general, as public blockchain technology is definitely something that people were not sure that banks were going to move toward to, but now we're seeing evidence that they are. And from my perspective personally, and I've shared this on X before, right when this XLM announcement came out, because there was a lot of distraught within the XRP community, a lot of depression and frustration with this announcement. But something that I'm very convinced of is that XRP and XLM will be the next financial duopoly of the financial system. And when we think of examples of duopolies, that's like the Visas and MasterCards of the world, the Pepsis and Colas of the world, Pepsi and Coca-Colas of the world, not companies that have taken over an entire industry, but two companies that equally split the dominance within a specific niche and industry. And XRP and XLM, within my research across many different documentations, XRP and XLM has always been mentioned as a pair to improve and fix the corresponding banking system. So seeing the success of XLM, seeing the success of a token that has been, acknowledged along the proximity alongside XRP as just a token with a similar use case with a similar target of cross-border payments, and essentially understanding that there's going to be multiple winners, and also understanding that taking a huge step back. Of course, anyone who's again very just upset and frustrated with the pace of adoption, understanding that no token has received mass blockchain adoption yet. No token has received the highest level of institutional integration into either retail payment services, institutional payment services. And this is similar to, again, like saying, why haven't internet-based stocks truly rallied before, internet products came to the market, before social media companies came to the market, before the iPhone was released. These are all things that had a massive accelerant effect on the adoption of a new technology. And I would say that we truly haven't had that iPhone moment for blockchain technology, for tokens like XRP, to essentially lead to that network effects influence on the growth of XRP. And this is something that I've just seen directly be acknowledged as a catalyst for the next phase of price action for XRP, is that the technology of XRP, the network of Ripple, has to grow in a way that we've seen other technologies go in an exponential way. There was certainly one day when no one had smartphones and iPhones walking around, and then one day everyone's looking down at their phones. And now we're in a similar phase where blockchain technology is going to be adopted in an invisible way behind financial services. And billions of people are essentially going to be using this technology without knowing it. And this is something that, of course, I don't think Bitcoin or Ethereum has as an advantage, as a lot of their technology relies on manually opening a wallet. Meanwhile, technologies that were meant to integrate with financial services are going to be adopted in an invisible way, which is an even faster path to adoption for just the holders of XRP and assets like XLM.
Do you think there will be an iPhone moment here? Like, do you envision this moment where there's like a massive price appreciation because it just makes sense to everyone, or there's an influx of liquidity? Have you thought through that?
Yes, certainly. So as we mentioned earlier, the DTCC, right? The DTCC is an acronym that the average American has no idea what it is. And even if you explained it to them, they still wouldn't even care. However, this system, this company, this massive settlement infrastructure for just all derivatives, the stock market, and even regulated by global entities, are moving $100 trillion on chain, and very, very soon. Not within years, not 6 years or 5 years, within next few weeks, next few months, hundreds of trillions of dollars are moving on to a new system. This is the perfect example of invisible adoption of blockchain technology. If a system that no one knows what it is, however, it's responsible for hundreds of trillions of dollars, and it is adopting a new system, a new service, and most people aren't going to notice it in their day-to-day life, we're seeing just the invisible strategy to adopt blockchain technology instead of just a loud, boisterous strategy where announcements are made, commercials are made. We're seeing just this technology be adopted at the highest levels of finance before it's truly even rolled out to retail investors on a day-to-day basis. And even then, billions of people are likely going to be using blockchain technology through their bank accounts, through their payment apps, through their cell phones, without even knowing it. And I would say if I had to, describe it, I would say it's going to be an invisible iPhone moment where people behind the scenes, people who are invested into these protocols, we're all going to see that impact, and that's going to be reflected on the on-chain creation of wallets in a massive, rapid, successive manner in a way that retail investors simply wouldn't be able to do or conduct. Of course, it's going to be done with the help of artificial intelligence. And of course, with trillions of dollars moving on chain, this is going to be very observable behind the scenes and people who are watching on-chain movements compared to just the observation of the average, American, living their day-to-day life.
Totally. And the element of AI is something that can't really be overlooked, because basically there are very few moats to tackling specific problems. So the foot in the door plays a disproportionately large role, like probably more now than like ever in terms of the ability to build something. So the relationships that you have coming into this kind of change is a massive deal. Keith, did you have any more questions on this line of questioning? Because I wanted to talk about XRP Army after we do.
Cool. There's one other thing I think that I want to hit on is like, so Michael here also asked another question. He said, what specifically changes now? I don't want the narrative. I want the catalyst. what regulatory decision, institutional deployment, volume milestone, or contractual commitment happens next? Who is involved and by what date? Is another big part of his question is when is this going to happen?
Well, shout out to Michael. First and foremost, a lot of specifics there, and I think I would just preface, all of this with truly cannot predict the future. Truly don't know what's going to happen exactly, precisely next. And life would be pretty boring if I could. But a lot of the research that I put forth, a lot of the things that I share, is to truly help everyone understand that this A is not a simple process. B, this is not something that has been rolling out at this pace for years. We have just got to this pace of adoption. We have just got to this space of utility and regulatory clarity to allow assets like XRP, XLM, HBAR, et cetera, to truly thrive in a way that the environment simply has not been set for them. The foundation for their growth, the foundation for digital liquidity, the foundation for, I would say, companies that will take the risk to actually dive into this technology head first without any sort of hesitation. That moment has not happened yet either. And even mentioning dates, we certainly have plenty of timelines. We have plenty of indications and even launch dates that show that this technology is not going backwards in any way. This technology is not slowing down in any way. Just the DTCC alone, this process of moving hundreds of trillions of dollars on chain, this is not something that you can reverse. And this is something that is going to happen this year. This is a process that begins this year. The parties that are involved, the BlackRocks, the Bank of Americas, every bank in the world, every global systemically important bank in the world, just to answer that part. But when we think of just dates, when we think of just the time frame, we are on, I would say, certainly 2026 is the year of implementation. This is the year that we're seeing launch dates and names come on board that we have never seen before. And as we approach Q4, I would say that I don't expect this momentum to slow down. We mentioned AI as a completely new catalyst into this space 3 years ago, 2 years ago. AI agents was not something that was on our radar to truly accelerate the process of adoption, truly be a price catalyst for how much demand will move through these tokens. And now we're going to see millions, if not billions, of autonomous agents truly transacting on our behalf. And these are all, this AI agent factor is not something that, I calculated or I knew when it was going to come, but this is something that has added I would say, an accelerator behind the movements of these institutions, the movements behind capital. And I would just say, to just ultimately and directly answer his question, I would say that we continue to observe even the short term. I would say last year I wouldn't have been saying this, but this, even for me in my journey and my research career, we're seeing things that a lot of crypto investors have been waiting for, such as the BlackRocks to come on chain. They're tokenizing all of the ETFs within the next few months. This is something that would not have happened if there was much more skepticism around blockchain technology. This is something that would not have happened if we were far away from the utility phase. So utility is much more closer than farther. And I would say the last thing to truly wrap this up, to communicate to Michael on how close we are, there's 2 surveys that are out there, one from Fireblocks and one from Coinbase, Ernest & Young, one of the top audit firms in the world. They have placed out they had asked 2 questions to institutional investors of what is their timeline, what is their plans for launching tokenized based products, stablecoins, blockchain based services. And 89% of them said that 2026 is the year that they're going to move forward with launching their products. And only 11% said that they're waiting until 2027. Meanwhile, 0% said 2028, 2029, or 2030. So this is something that was a common overlap between those 2 surveys, is that 2026 and very few laggards are waiting until 2027. That should truly illustrate to you how close we are to massive institutional capital flowing into these assets as a result of just blockchain-based products being launched and the demand of these tokens rising as a result of these products being launched.
That's actually
that was
super
clear
fascinating
for you all.
Yeah. Ernst & Young, one of the big 4. For anyone who's not familiar, there's KPMG, Ernst & Young, Deloitte, and McKinsey, the top 4 sort of accounting firms / consulting firms. And I think those are the big 4. It could be a different one. And they're always constantly surveying markets, surveying people about, okay, what is happening in the future of technology and business, economics, and so on. And so for them to be releasing these types of reports, I mean, and this is something McKinsey's been very vocal about for the past, 5, 6 years at the very minimum. Um, it's super interesting to hear that data specifically from the businesses themselves, from the institutions, the largest ones, saying this is where things are heading. That's something that's very hard to ignore. But Ben, said you had some things you wanted to touch on?
Yeah, that's awesome. And I really recommend that people rewatch everything that Smoke is saying, because if you don't really like look into what the words mean and who he's mentioning too, like you may not understand the significance of a lot of those things. So I strongly recommend rewatching this one. We've also tried to throw up some definitions as we go, but there's a lot of material here that once you fully understand it, you understand people's bullishness. But I wanted to talk about the XRP army, because I study communities and movements, and one thing that's always fascinated me was like how they attracted certain people to join the XRP army, and it seems like they attracted like specific groups of people. I was wondering if you've done any research into like how it became what it is today.
Love the XRP Army. Shout out to the XRP Army, sometimes called the XRP family. I would say the XRP Army is very diverse. I do think it is grouped in certain categories at times. I do think that the enthusiasm and excitement and the bullishness of XRP is very unique. And I wouldn't even just say in the cryptocurrency realm. I would say in other aspects of life, other communities, other just interests and just communities of focus. The XRP community is definitely something I would just say a group of individuals, a group of people who can. I would say the first thing that makes them very common, I would say starting with that before the differences, is that they are all looking to truly change their life in a way that is centered around one investment, and that is XRP. And this is not something that is very common in other investment groups. Most investment groups tend to diversify, but I would say the use case around XRP certainly has contributed to that, just that high expectation, the extreme narratives around XRP, which has contributed to just the dedication to the asset, the dedication to the research behind the asset. But I will also just say that cryptocurrency in itself has a lore around it. And I would say we all have to blame Satoshi for that, for just, being anonymous. And of course, I'm following in his footsteps slightly, but he also just left us with more questions than answers with his disappearance, with us just leaving us with Bitcoin and letting it grow in the way that it did organically. And this has certainly proliferated to assets like XRP and just the lore behind it. I would say the riddles, the cryptic tweets and interpretations of the asset. There's been many different signs over the years, and I would definitely not say I have the answers for it. I would say one of the most interesting things that I've ever come across in my research is that there actually was a research paper that covered riddles, XRP riddles. And it was very, I would say, distorting a bit, because in my research, I'm just looking at facts, just looking at what's logical, and, seeing logical observations around something that, inherently isn't logical, like, the riddles and, the stories around XRP and its future value and things that we're looking for. Seeing that sort of acknowledgement just truly helped me understand that I would say that there's eyes on this space, there's eyes on this community, it is something unique that anyone can truly take and understand, and not, I would say, find a comparison to it. So the uniqueness and the diversity of the XRP community is something that I wasn't even aware of when I first got into crypto. I wasn't aware of just the social media side of crypto until I would say 2 to 3 years deep into research. And then I was pretty much well established into my own belief system before coming across the XRP community, but certainly enhanced, I would say, my focus, enhanced how I understood the asset, and also enhanced the community aspect around the asset. I had no clue about the community of crypto before, truly getting on social media, understanding Bitcoin, understanding XRP, doing all that research was pure independent and pure individual. But it was delightful to see that there was, people doing this for years, even before myself, which is, amazing to hear as well, that there's many people that have been holding this asset for over a decade. So seeing that sort of dedication is nothing short of inspirational, nothing short of motivational ourselves. And we even see plenty of new cohorts of XRP community members coming along because of this, just the contagious bullishness around the asset. So I do think it's going to be something that's looked back on just as a fascinating phenomenon, as a group of people who were very bullish on an asset before it was massively adopted.
Do you still buy XRP?
Currently, I haven't bought XRP in I would say a few weeks actually. And as I mentioned earlier, my average price is 11 cents. Seeing XRP on massive green days like we just experienced, XRP going into, I would say almost 170, 160. That's not how I view, the most attractive entry points. I was able to invest a significant amount of capital at those low price levels when XRP was moving sideways for all of those years that people were frustrated with. That was the majority of my buys, and I was able to, I was graciously able to diversify into these other ISO compliant tokens that I mentioned earlier. But I originally did start off as just completely centered on XRP because just looking at the history, looking at the price performance and the projections around it. Of course, I would say it's a semi-lazy perspective to only try to put all of your eggs in one basket and just truly not look at other aspects of the industry. But what truly broke me out of just being, I guess, an XRP maxi is what you can call it, but seeing XRP and XLM match together, pairs together in several different high-level papers, and also expanding my knowledge and understanding HBAR, working together with just AI being that layer of trust for blockchain technology, IOTA being an asset focused on Internet of Things and autonomous smart systems and factories, looking at quant, understanding that interoperability between blockchains is an important niche to focus on as well. Doing deep research over a period of years allowed me to expand and diversify across a wide variety of assets that I view undervalued even in comparison to XRP. So I would even say in the last few years, a big focus has been diversifying into these assets while also having a massive bag of XRP that represents the majority of my portfolio.
Sweet, man. And to double tap on the whole community and messaging piece for everyone is that stories create our existence and they move people. And XRP is a fantastic story to tell and a lot of spreaders to tell it. And so that can't be overlooked as well. So yeah, there's so much lore in crypto. That's also what really fascinated me to it too, which people don't care because they hear it, the word, and they think scam. But there's so much substance here just from a narrative perspective too that I think will start to come out more and more for XRP, Bitcoin, etc. So yeah, super interesting stuff. Go ahead, Keith.
I wanna touch on that because there is something weird about XRP in that regard. So I came in second half of 2017, and there were some people already there. For me, it was hearing that Ethereum existed that made me say, "Wait a minute, I've heard about Bitcoin, not even like as an investment, just as a thing that you use." And then I hear about Ethereum, I'm like, "Wait a minute, there's something going on here. Then, like, what's going on? Let me like go down the line and figure out what is this crypto thing." And when I got to XRP, I mean, it didn't take long. It's the third largest digital asset at the time. But it's like, okay, where did this come from? Because this clearly is a very, very different thing from Bitcoin and Ethereum. And then you realize that there's people that have already been there. And then you've had these riddlers, and like all of these kind of weird things, right, that have been around well before I had even found this XRP asset. And so my question, Smoke, is do you think that there's some sort of like conspiratorial edge to like how the messaging for this was so well done from so far back when no one even knew what any of this stuff was?
That is a very interesting perspective. I would say the only thing that would even add would be even fuel for theories and perspectives around just conspiratorial things around the asset would be the deep, powerful connections that the Ripple company has, the mentions of XRP by some of the most powerful entities in the world, such as the IMF, the BIS, the Federal Reserve. These are all entities that have their own mystery behind them. And XRP consistently being in the same mentions as these entities, Ripple being in the same room, in the same conversation as these influential regulators. This has, I would say, for good reason, added that layer of conspiracy, added that layer of this is a secret. We don't want you to know about it. The people who own the financial system are pretty closed off to sharing their secrets, sharing how things really work behind the scenes. But Ripple somehow has infiltrated that system. Ripple has gained the trust of the banking system, gained the trust of regulators. And that's not something that normally happens with fintechs. That's not something that normally happens with private sector companies, especially private sector companies that are utilizing new technology. This is something that we don't see pretty often. And when we think of just the philosophy, the original philosophy of crypto technology, the decentralization thesis, the down with the banks thesis, the be your own bank thesis, these are all things that have caused backlash for the Ripple company and the XRP token as they are working with the system, the centralized system that cryptocurrency was so-called designed to take down. So when we see Ripple tend to, I'll say, break a lot of the rules, break a lot of the quote unquote crypto rules, where that's definitely grounds for just massive speculation and massive just thoughts on what's Ripple's true intentions, what was the secret that allowed Ripple to gain so much trust. I think when you look at all the places that Ripple and XRP Ledger exist at and where they're mentioned at, it definitely is very interesting on how successful they were with infiltrating some of the most strict regulatory bodies in the world, and just, I would say, earn their respect and always end up being a candidate for being mentioned, a candidate for being chosen as a technical platform for deployment. And when it comes to just conspiracy thoughts, I'm definitely not the guy that believes in all of them. I try to, back everything I say with something that I read from something that's credible, from something that's reliable. And when I say credible, reliable, I mean the professional wealth managers of the world, people who are writing analysts, analysis on these altcoins and these blockchain-based products and their forecasts for blockchain technology to their internal-based clients, with very little reason for misdirection, very little reason for trickery within these publications. So that's essentially how I base my investment thesis and shape my financial decisions. That's not to take any shots at anyone who does believe in conspiracy theories in crypto. Sometimes conspiracy theories turn out to be true, and I'm curious to see which ones turn to be true in the long term. But currently, my investment thesis and what I focus on and how I, essentially give advice on where I'm seeing crypto going is all rooted in something that's real.
Fair enough, man. I look back to some of the founders of Ripple, right? And obviously the original founder, Chris Larsen, right? And some of his background, and I'll pull some of this up because there was a moment that I always talk about on the show where in 2018, the Ripple cryptocurrency founder, Chris Larsen, overtook Mark Zuckerberg to become the world's fifth richest person before plunging to 15th within a few hours of the token reaching that high level and then coming back down. So at that time, his net worth was about 60 billion or 44 billion pounds on paper, right? Obviously, he wasn't liquidating at that time. And that allowed him to get up to above the level of Mark Zuckerberg at that time. Now, for anyone who doesn't know Chris Larsen, he's also someone who's been around the internet finance game for quite some time. And you can see here his publicly listed net worth is still 11.4 billion today, ladies and gentlemen. So he's already an incredibly wealthy man. When you look to his past and what he did, he founded this online mortgage lender called eLoan. And this was in 1996, right? He was working on internet projects, bringing the finance world to the internet. And Prosper Marketplace was another thing that he co-founded until 2012. He was the CEO of that company. And then later in 2012, he co-founded a company called Ripple Labs. Now, the thing that also came to my mind was this older video. Shout out to Plan XRP for having this on YouTube. And it's Chris Larsen in the California State Assembly in 2015 talking about Ripple and what it's capable of, or the promise of virtual currency. I'll play just a little piece of this real quick.
Rules of competition for foreign exchange and liquidity. And kind of stepping way back, we agree that this is the beginning of an internet of value. That is now possible. It wasn't possible before Bitcoin. Bitcoin showed it was possible to do this. Ripple's taking that and using a different technology based on the same principles. But the key thing is, we think just like the early days of the internet of knowledge, going back 20 years ago, that internet would not have value unless you got the key custodians of knowledge on board, the universities, the research facilities, think ARPANET, Stanford. We think we're in that same period with the internet of value, that before these technologies have key utility, we have to get the custodians of value on board first. And those are the banks, financial institutions, market makers. Then I think we're set up where these things can have tremendous value across the board.
So crazy to think that back in 2015, these were the conversations that were being had in a governmental sort of body. Obviously, that's not crazy early, but when you look at Chris Larson and his background in this space, it's an interesting thought. And we've talked about on the show Peter Thiel as well, in the 90s, talking about having that internet money that would be something that would compete with government money. Any thoughts on any of that stuff?
Yes, I think the key phrase that Chris Larson mentioned there, and this is also something that would help people understand what is the severity of the moment that we're in, the significance of the shift that we're entering right now. And of course, that's the famous phrase, Internet of Value. This is something that at times can be thrown around as just a whimsical buzz phrase that only some people on crypto Twitter can understand. But to truly recognize what the Internet of Value is, you have to understand where we just transitioned from. And that was the Internet of Information, the Internet of social media, which brought us the introduction of Web 2. And of course, now with Web 3, with crypto and technology. But when we think of the opportunity the wealth creation opportunity that was generated from the onset of the internet, which followed the dot-com boom, that was the digitization of information, videos, content, media. That was all of that information, that data going onto the internet. And these were all things that were not associated with money inherently, but the companies that were able to take that data, take that information and build companies and apps, applications and services upon them, such as social media applications, travel applications. These are all things that were built upon the internet. The companies went on to become the Googles, the Microsofts, the Amazons of the world and become the most valuable companies. Meanwhile, the internet did not become something that received a dollar value, despite creating trillions of dollars in wealth for many different companies. We are seeing that process become completely inverted with the Internet of Value, where the rails underneath the applications that are built upon blockchain technology, that is where majority of the capital will settle at. That is where majority of the value will go. And that is also, this will also be the first time where open source protocols will receive a dollar amount value, will actually be monetized for the first time compared to information-based protocols like HTTP that currently govern the security of all the websites that we visit right now. We're going to have a value-based protocol like the XRP ledger govern the Internet of Value. And that is going to be the first internet protocol that will be able to be monetized by investors who own pieces of allocations of XRP, which is essentially owning a piece of the new Internet of Value protocol. And when we think of, again, what's associated with finances, what's associated with payments and transactions versus media, content, videos, these are completely drastically different investment opportunities, as there's currently on record hundreds of trillions of dollars in custody, hundreds of trillions of dollars in banking deposits, hundreds of trillions of dollars that moves across borders and across jurisdictions. And these payment flows are moving to blockchain-based rails. And this is something that is a one-time value unlock that does not come around after it happens. It does not come around again after it happens. And, just to go back to Michael's question that he asked earlier, it's definitely a reflection of just how slow that this quote unquote slow this adoption has been moving. But when you truly take a step back and you truly look at how fast the world is moving towards Internet of Value, moving towards tokenizing all forms of value, that essentially highlights and boils down what investors have in front of them as an opportunity to secure wealth, to create wealth, as opposed to the opportunity that Bitcoin has given the world over the last few years. And that's an opportunity to secure an asset to preserve wealth over the next few years. And of course, there's discussions and, controversies around what exactly the role of Bitcoin will be. But I think that is something that will be organically set and organically acknowledged. Even in the case of payment infrastructure tokens like XRP, they're going to be organically chosen because of their efficiency, because of their use case within the Internet of Value, while, Bitcoin retains its role as a store of value and essentially just retains its role as just a good long-term investment to preserve your capital against debasing currencies.
So Sarah Alteaser said, so grateful for how slow it's been, honestly. And I love that. I think that's actually something that if you're really paying attention to what's going on, it's an incredible advantage, right?
Total cheat code key. Because then you can you're happy on down days and happy on up days.
100%. And it makes me think about the idea of, okay, how come the banks haven't pushed the prices up already? Right? Like, why wouldn't the prices already be higher? If this were for sure going to happen, wouldn't they front run this thinking? Could it be that there's more covert, more slower accumulation that's happening to prevent there from being massive price spike smoke? How do you reconcile the fact that if this is so for sure going to happen, why is the price still so low? Wouldn't people get ahead of that?
Yes, and that is something I hear pretty often. And I would say that there are very logical explanations behind this. And I would say the first logical explanation is that the banking system is not something that is known for moving fast. The banking system is currently owned and operated by pretty antiquated individuals, just, being polite to those people. But there are people who are not used to change. There are people who do not shift their systems overnight when a new thing is introduced into the market. Even before blockchain technology, there were other payment technology companies that were disintermediary in correspondent banking. I would say the Zells and the PayPals of the world, which have definitely absorbed a large amount of capital outside of the banking system. But when we think of what is going to be the new value driver, the new price catalyst for cryptocurrencies and crypto assets as they become utility-based infrastructure tokens, the confusion lies in the reducing importance of speculation. As you just mentioned, if everything is going to be a sure thing and banks know that it's going to be a great investment, retail knows it's going to be a great investment, we have the dates, we have the timelines, we have the forecast. Why aren't they driving the prices up? Because that would mean that speculation would be a price driver. If everyone believing that these assets were valuable, that would drop the price up. However, utility is the new fundamental measuring stick that is being added into the market. The use case, the solution, the value behind the solution, how much money is actually saved and how much efficiency gains are actually brought into a system is what these assets will be judged upon. And that will reflect in their asset prices as they're integrated. And this is something that is essentially a huge disconnect in the understanding between what's driving asset prices and what will drive asset prices. There is definitely an element of speculation. There's definitely an element of retail participation. However, the large wave, the large avalanche of institutional capital that will come into this market via direct investing, via ETFs, and ultimately the integration of these blockchain networks that will require a higher demand and which will result in just a higher price appreciation of these assets. All these things will take place around a similar time frame, and they're not happening right now because that would mean that speculation would be a driving force of this asset class, and that's something that is that was a driving force in the past cycles, and that's fading away as a powerful force now.
So something else that you've mentioned throughout some of this is some of the other like ISO 20022 tokens and things that are fitting within that sort of a standard at the very minimum. And you also mentioned this concept of interoperability. My question to you is if you see XRP, you know for a fact that it's not the only option for how things will be tokenized in the future. And you know that other chains will be used. Why do you anchor the value, if you do, around XRP when it could be around something that focuses on interoperability?
That's a great question, Keith, and thanks for asking that. So I entered XRP seriously, I would say, in end of 2019, beginning of 2020. And this was right before the SEC court case. So right before that, I think like most XRP investors, once they, get the narrative, see the facts, see the performance, see the integrations and the partnerships, it's, hey, I should be rich any day now, or I should be rich in the next few weeks or the next few months. Or if this asset is so amazing, then it should take off any day now. And, after thinking that for, about a year or a few months, that's when the SEC court case happened. And immediately after that, I would say us and XRP community people who I was currently that I was investing with at the time, we were all looking at similar stories, analogies, and similar circumstances that would give us hope that XRP was going to survive this, that Ripple was going to beat this federal court case. And after a year, after 2 years, the hope that the court case was not going to last long tended to fade, and that ultimately turned into a 5-year court case. And I would say that I definitely did not have the same perceptions and understandings of power, governmental influence before that court case as I did after that court case. And seeing the extreme lengths that the government went to either suppress Ripple, suppress XRP, suppress blockchain technology, the taxpayer money that was spent over a course of 5 years for a case that was eventually ultimately lost, and there wasn't any fraud proven, and there wasn't any acknowledgement of serious wrongdoing on behalf of Ripple. That certainly put just the asset, and of course this was a realization that I had on at least year 3 or 4 of the court case, as it simply did not make any sense at a certain point on why the case was going so long, and truly understanding how profitable this investment will be if it really does become half of the things that people said it's going to be, or half of the things that institutions project it's going to be, or even getting a portion of the cross-border payments market. Then accumulating any amount of XRP is going to, just produce massive returns, even with a humble, modest investment. And understanding that clearly is something that I, don't have a name for, a group that I have not identified wanted XRP to not thrive at the point that it was meant to thrive at, when there was plenty of momentum around Ripple and their progress and adoption. That's certainly just the sole existence of entities that did not want retail investors to take part of this opportunity clearly revealed to me that it's much more to this, that of course that I'm sure I don't understand, of how massive this opportunity is going to be and how far this asset is going to go. But that is something that other assets simply did not have to go through. And that's not to say that those assets won't be valuable, but there wasn't anything else I could truly compare it to an asset that was held back for a very long time as a result of fear of its growth, or the fear of opportunity that it would provide people who invested into the asset early. I would say Tesla would be the closest example, as Tesla did have bouts of court cases with the SEC for, seemingly harmless reasons, and Ripple and XRP were in a very similar conversation. And, it's all history with Tesla and Elon Musk and all of his progress and all of the wealth that you could have generated if you had that foresight for that investment, despite the short-term fear and uncertainty around the asset.
The court case was an interesting moment. For me, I think I walked away with that more confused than ever. Seeing Jay Clayton make that decision on his last day in the SEC, like crazy that happened that way. And then seeing John Deaton step into the middle of that process made me think about how much more of a Bandersnatch kind of a scenario it kind of felt like. It's like the people get to choose which way things go from here. It's kind of what it made me think about when that occurred. And then thinking maybe Jay Clayton's job, maybe what his goal was to actually give Ripple and XRP clarity faster than anyone else by doing this, right? Because then no one else has this fight that they can go through, that they know for a fact they're going to keep fighting through it and not actually settle, right? What if, total hypothetical scenario. What if Jay Clayton talked to Brad Garlinghouse and he said, "Hey, dude, I got an idea. How about we sue you and you guys go to court with us for a couple of years, but at the end of that, the court will determine whether or not you guys are actually security or not. And you guys will be the only ones who actually have regulatory clarity because you're going to keep fighting the case rather than giving in." How does that sound, Brad? I don't know. There's something else that came to my head throughout all this too.
One thing that is a interesting possible scenario, but I would say I would believe that could be a possible perspective if I did not hear Brad himself mention that in the early days of the court case, they were debating winding down or shutting down Ripple as a result of the court case. And that's something that was not circulating in the first few days of the SEC court case announcement, something I had no idea about, something that with the information that I had at the time would have made holding XRP much harder and much more difficult if I knew that they were, having those internal conversations. But, thankfully, they were a responsible company. They made responsible investments. They have a token that's backed by, responsible tokenomics and good utility, not driven by the prices of the cycles. Some tokens do disappear after certain cycles. They don't last through the ups and the downs and throughout the volatility. And that's something that gave me more hope and optimism within holding XRP at that time. But the fact that Ripple, that Brad admitted that they were genuinely fearful for the future of the company because of that SEC court case, definitely don't think it was, a handshake on Ripple's side behind the scenes. I definitely think that there are some very powerful entities that, have some control of federal agencies, federal enforcement forces to truly, give banks an opportunity to understand the technology, give banks a chance to catch up. The banking lobby is one of the most powerful and largest lobbies within Congress. And now the crypto super PACs, these are catching up to the banking influence. However, the banking influence has been here for a very long time. And seeing that anyone is able to just make a phone call and have a federal court case against a legitimate company for 5 years, I think it's something there. And that I'm not saying that as if I've seen something or that I researched something that confirmed exactly what the motivation behind the court case was, but that's the reason why XRP is 60% of my portfolio.
Super cool, man. Thank you for breaking that down and sharing your perspective with us today. Ben, did you have something you want to touch on?
No, I think we can jump into the one word game and then maybe take a few from the chat.
Perfect. So we have a game, Smoke, where I give you off a word or a phrase, and you give us the first word that comes to your mind.
Sounds fun.
Awesome. You ready for me?
Super ready.
The first one that I have here is Clarity Act.
Optimistic.
The next one that I have is Wall Street.
Slow.
The next one I have is Bitcoin.
Digital gold.
Brad Garlinghouse.
Trustworthy.
Cardano.
Sustainable.
He's the first non-Cardano hater, though. I just gotta chime in. He's the first guy on the show who hasn't shit on Cardano, man.
There's nothing wrong with it.
I agree. I completely agree. I'm there with you, but it's I'm glad I'm not alone, Smoke. I appreciate it.
The next one is Solana.
Meme coins.
NFTs.
I would say initially art, but verification.
Love it.
XRP.
Digital liquidity.
USDC.
Temporary.
Ripple.
Forward thinking.
Fantastic. Ben, your mic disconnected, by the way.
Gotta love that.
So you completed the one word game, and you did. There's one moment there where you gave us a couple of words, but no, that was awesome, man. Congratulations on making it to the one word game.
Appreciate that.
Where can people make sure to keep up with? Actually, hold on. Let's make sure that we see the chat.
Yes. So Jay Huron is very adamant that he wants to talk about Escrow. So before we wrap up.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, we haven't talked about that at all. Was there a specific comment he had on it?
I asked that, and I don't think so.
Okay. Well, yeah. So basically, for some context, right? Ripple holds a significant amount of the entire XRP supply in escrow. There's some sort of automations as to like how much of that gets released every month, and then either they sell that amount or put it back, or some of it gets sold or put back into the escrow. Can you
Right.
talk about that function and like how you think that matters in this whole game?
No problem. So that is something that has been a concern as a price suppression mechanism for the XRP asset. And the truth of the matter is that it's actually the opposite. So years ago, Ripple received, I would say at the time, likely fair criticism of being a majority owner of the XRP supply. And at the time, and even now, if a company owns majority of the supply, if a company has distributed majority of the supply to either internal investors or just either internal node validators and not evenly distributing the token, that's just poor tokenomics, and projects that have followed that structure of just having 90% held by one entity of the platform or a project, it tends to not last long. Meme coins are notorious for having this tokenomic setup. But to earn trust from, I would say, the financial community, the crypto community, and just anyone who had skepticism at the time, they locked up in the escrow, as you mentioned, a certain amount of XRP that is on a time release schedule, a cryptographically escrow time release schedule that is not controlled by them. I have seen even recent conversations from David Schwartz that a deal can be made, something can be signed, an agreement can be arranged where this escrow can be either sold or reduced in some way, but that's not in the current plans or priorities of Ripple at the moment. But regarding the concerns of the existence of the escrow was made to, as I mentioned, to earn trust from the community and not allow Ripple to be a unfair holder of majority of the supply, to reduce claims of unfair centralization, reduce claims of controlling the network at its whim. And this essentially has been protecting the price of XRP. Without the escrow, the price of XRP would be much lower regarding the value floor that the escrow has created for the asset. And I would say the most recent and most interesting observation of the supply that's released every month and reduced or sent back into the escrow if it's not used or distributed is that XRP ETFs are finally catching up to the new supply of XRP that is coming into the market. So when we think of something that could potentially dilute the price of XRP from these escrows, XRP ETFs are starting to eat at that supply as well, which will directly contribute to the supply demand impact on the XRP assets price. And I would say the most recent update is that 1% of XRP supply is now absorbed into XRP ETFs. And the speed, the pace, and acceleration of XRP ETF adoption is leading to less XRP in circulation, which would definitely begin to have a observable scarcity effect. So without the escrow, there would be, I would say, much less trust on Ripple, the company, much less trust around the XRP ecosystem. And this is something that I believe, the XRP holders should definitely be grateful for, the forward thinking and the foresight of the Ripple company, because since the creation of the escrow, there has been very little criticism of the centralization claims around Ripple, the company, the XRPL, the XRP asset, and its tokenomics. So definitely a great addition for right now that's not going to exist forever, as again, it's going to be empty one day.
Fascinating way of looking at that. It's definitely a major piece of fear, uncertainty, and doubt in the entire XRP narrative. Great to see you back, Johans. We got good evening crypto in the chat. What up? Let's see, anything else that we saw in the chat that we want to make sure we touch on?
I don't think so.
There was one question I had for you. What are your thoughts on Chainlink?
I think Chainlink's a great project. I think Chainlink has done an amazing job at communicating its presence, communicating where it's integrated within major ecosystems like Swift and DTCC. I do think oftentimes there's a misinterpretation of where Chainlink will end up ultimately being in the tech stack versus an XRP or an XLM. And I think in very simple terms to anyone just trying to understand Chainlink's role in their ecosystem is that whether for precious metals, whether for asset prices, stock prices, cryptocurrency prices, DeFi protocol, liquidity levels. There needs to be a reliable foundation of data that needs to be referred to. And Chainlink is currently, I would say, number one in Oracle data and retrieving data for FX markets, retrieving data for different assets with that trade in different markets to make sure that there aren't any inconsistencies with data reporting. And this is something that does not interfere with settlement, liquidity, Internet of Things, interoperability between blockchains. This is a very unique niche use case that Chainlink is certainly dominating currently. And I believe that Chainlink is certainly top 5 cryptocurrencies when it comes to marketing and just sharing straightforward, transparent PDFs and reports that show exactly where the Chainlink ecosystem will thrive compared to other ecosystems. And I do think there's always confusions of the overlaps between tokens, but one should understand that all of these tokens will essentially overlap in some manners, but every industry has multiple, dominant names within them. There's not only one cell phone company, one telecommunications company, one internet company. There's a variety of companies all within the same industry. And we see this with overlaps of trade finance with XCC and IOTA. Even Ripple at times can facilitate trade across borders as well in an efficient manner. So when we think of just the role that Chainlink will have, being a data oracle that can accurately report the live price feedings of different assets and on different prices in different markets to whatever payment infrastructure that they're integrated within. That's certainly a major part of the investment thesis behind Chainlink, and I'm certainly bullish on the Chainlink ecosystem.
So I wanna really push on this. Chainlink as a price oracle is one thing for sure, but it's also, like I think you mentioned as well, a data feed solution. So if we look at this I try my best to look at what's happening with distributed ledger technology from a topological perspective, meaning like classification of like what is it that it does and how does that fit into the overall puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
And Chainlink, so XRP and the XRP ledger is a blockchain solution. It's a singular blockchain. There are arguably hundreds, thousands of competitors. When it comes to the concept of taking data that exists from an offline source, off-chain source,
right,
bringing that into the blockchain, do you think that could be more important or more valuable at the very minimum than just one individual blockchain in that use case that one blockchain has? To double down on this, couldn't Chainlink actually be responsible, also considering the CCIP, right, the cross-chain interoperability protocol, for actually making something like XRP interoperable, not only with other blockchains, but potentially with the traditional systems? Wouldn't that be a more valuable use case than just whatever's happening on the XRP ledger itself?
So I would say that would be true without Ripple's interledger protocol. Are you guys familiar with that? So this is something that I would say 99% of blockchains do not have. And this is an additional structure on top of the XRPL that allows the XRPL to scale to not only trillions of transactions per second, but also facilitate interoperability between different ledgers, not just blockchain-based ledgers, bank ledgers as well. So this is something that is a hybrid solution put forth by Ripple. The interledger protocol is a solution that's even relied on by Bill and Melinda Gates Mojo Foundation. This is also the same interledger protocol that is currently interoperable with SWIFT. This is the same interledger protocol that can connect different payment systems across different countries. And this is something that is cited as the earliest version of cross-chain technology, which was established in 2012. So Ripple is certainly a pioneer in interoperability, a pioneer in cross-chain technology, and they're not searching for interoperability solution. Even Hyperledger Foundation is on record stating that in order to truly interoperate with other blockchains and other ledgers, the interledger protocol is the way that they're doing this. And Chainlink and Ripple are not at odds in any way. I know for sure that ROUSD is utilizing Chainlink for live data feeds to, of course, just make sure that the reporting of ROUSD being pegged 1-to-1 as a USD peg stablecoin is consistent to all markets, consistent to all observers. from whatever device that they're observing the price at, from the price feed that they're watching. So when it comes to interoperability, when it comes to connecting different ledgers, the XRPL Ripple is certainly prepared with the Interledger protocol, which majority of their technological solutions are relying on, which is also powered by XRP in every transaction.
If I had you for another 15, 20 minutes, I would go in about the idea of the data though. But I don't want to keep you too much longer.
Can always come back.
Yeah, man. Yeah, we can totally continue this conversation and would love to do that. For people who want to make sure that they keep up with everything that you've got going on, where can they find you?
You can find me on X. That's a primary research platform at SMQKE, DQG, no spaces. This is essentially where you can find my research as I'm releasing it, from new, relevant, recent reports and institutional outlooks for cryptocurrency, digital assets, regulations, the geopolitical relationship between these crypto assets. This is essentially where I'm sharing a majority of my research, for where I'm sharing a even higher level of research for people who are serious about just making wise investment decisions within cryptocurrencies. You can find in my bio my school link to the Smoke Room. That's essentially a deep dive research community of individuals that have a disciplined and patient perspective on how they're navigating the cryptocurrency market by utilizing institutional documentation, utilizing their forecasts, how the capital of smart money is moving, truly looking at behind the scenes and the back end developments that most people aren't really seeing. And this is certainly a level of research that, if people are really serious about allocating to crypto assets, the Smoke Room is certainly something I would recommend and encourage checking out. So those are the best two places to just get in contact with me and just access me personally if you have any questions.
Sweet, man. We appreciate you giving us all of your time today, man. And everyone, All Smoke stuff is the first links down below. So go show him some love. And we appreciate your time, man.
Definitely appreciate the conversation, Keith and Ben. Definitely happy to meet you guys for the first time. I've definitely caught clips of you guys' show. Definitely want to reach out to you guys earlier and have this conversation. But you know how fast paced this space can move, and definitely glad that it happened, sooner rather than later. And definitely looking forward to coming back and having more important conversations like this.
Oh, Smoke, everyone's asking about your name. How did you come up with the name?
It's an amazing note to wrap this up on. So it's actually an acronym. So study is the S. It just stands for the consistent day-to-day activity that I participate in. I don't just read these reports and documentations one time. I study them, read them, refer back to them. M stands for market trends, watching where the market is going, just looking at how quick this industry is changing, not just looking at how I personally feel, how the industry feels, how the market is shifting in real time. Q or O stands for ongoing strategy / questions. This is not something that I take breaks on. This is not something that I just do Monday and Tuesday and then relax the rest of the week. This is a 24/7 progress. So ongoing strategy is a big part of the fundamentals behind my research. And of course, asking questions. I don't think I have all the answers. I type questions into AI now, but before it was Google. And that is something that I do consistently throughout the day as well. And I don't think anyone should go throughout their day without asking questions, without trying to learn something new. And K stands for knowledge exchange. I discuss these ideas with smart people like you, not just listening to my own thoughts, not just following my own emotions, but having a focus on community-based conversations, a focus on being transparent on the thoughts and behind my research, the thoughts behind my thesis, and not just being secretive or cryptic on any parts of it, truly having a value on knowledge exchange and taking in ideas and also dishing them out. And the last one is evaluation, looking at all of these documentations and evaluating them independently, looking at how they are being published, what's the tone behind them, what are the attitudes of the authors of these reports, are the companies putting out these reports, are the authors of these reports credible, reliable, are they consistent, what is the context of a lot of the ideas that they are sharing. These are essentially the principles and the foundation of my research and just the philosophy, how I seek and pursue information without just, having a non-systematic way of pursuing the truth in this space.
Fire, man. That's super cool. That's even cooler than I thought it was going to be. So that's awesome.
Thanks for that.
Fantastic.
Cool, man. Well, appreciate you, brother. Man. Have an awesome rest of your day. And we're looking forward to speaking with you soon.
You too, guys.
Cheers.
All right, man. Take it easy. So stick around, folks. If you're new here, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe. We've got the second half going on just now. We just got started here. So we're about to go over things that are happening in the news. We're going to talk about some of the things that have been happening throughout the internet. And you definitely don't want to miss that. So get ready for the second half. First, we will debrief a little bit. Ben, how you feeling?
He's awesome, first of all. I've been following him for a while. So before he DM'd me, I think I've sent you his account before. Like if we really scroll back in our DMs, I'm pretty sure I was like, pay attention to this guy. He's smart. So super cool to have finally spoken with him. And yeah, like I'll repeat what I've said. Like I'm sure like the XRP community is the biggest thing that I can't ignore because it's just so large. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, and when everyone is a creator and a message spreader, that sheer volume of people that are there is a massive, massive advantage. In the attention economy, all those people that are there, and how many people are going to be able to see themselves in the people spreading these messages, man? Right? Because that's a massive factor, right? Because if I come on the screen and people think like, oh, who's this nerd talking, whatever, and they don't see themselves in me, they're far less likely to listen to me than someone who is like them. Right? So how many of those people who are going to be able to be like, yo, and like, you know what I mean? It's going to make sense for them.
That's a really good point, man. And that's one thing about the XRP army that's like Smoke mentioned. It's so diverse. There's so many different people that are in the room, different backgrounds, different experiences, things that are relatable, things that are aspiring. People who are in the military. It's a big, huge part of some of the people that are in the XRP army.
And so, religious. I've seen like religious influence there as well, which those are all testaments to like passion and loyalty and consistency there, right? So that's always advantageous for something like this. But yeah, it's a fun conversation, wealth of knowledge. I love the fact that he is going beyond the surface. I think if you want to become like Smoke, it does take the effort, the reps, and going beyond the surface. And that's really where you find alpha, right? It's doing the things that others aren't willing to do. And with the internet, you can expedite that path by following people like Smoke and other people who are doing the same kind of things. But if you really want to get ahead of the market, like that's the stuff you kind of have to do, and then have conviction in what you learn as well.
Love it. Love it. Before we transition into the second half, well, first off, anything else you want to chat on? Anything you're seeing in the comments down below, Ben?
Just an amen from Abs. Good evening, crypto. What up?
Let's go. Let's go.
I don't like the buzzwords here. Okay.
What words did you hear?
I don't know.
I'm super curious.
Know what you hold. Investing without a strategy. Yeah. And I think that's why a lot of people do think that all crypto investments are gambling because they've only seen the price charts. Even people who have held it, right? Like they didn't do any research beyond look at the price chart. And so if you look at that, then of course it does look like a scam. It looks like a Ponzi scheme, but like look at the deeper stuff that's going on and things that are going on at society at large too.
And then Deplorable Kula said, I've never been looking for loyalty from my currency. Maybe this is a new filings currency, I guess.
So you clearly misunderstood. I guess you misunderstood what I was saying. I'm saying loyalty in terms of the holders. In the world that we're going to in an attention economy, the community is the asset, right? And so what is a strong element of a great community is loyalty. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah, and also it's not easily like a currency here as well, guys. I think we've got to keep on pushing back on that concept of like cryptocurrency as what it actually is. These aren't necessarily currencies.
Yeah, great point.
So that's a very different conversation to, are you looking for some form of loyalty around the people that own the stock, for instance, right? That you're talking about. If people that are coming in to buy the stock are like the GameStop kids who are just buying the stock because it was going up, then you're going to have a lot tougher of a time holding on to that stock, right? And the price of it's going to be extremely volatile. And then you also have loyalty on the other side of like, do the people who are running the company care about it? Are they incentivized properly? Things of that nature. So it's different dynamics that come around, like something that moves more like a security than a currency. And in this case, unfortunately, I think that's the reality, is that these things move much more like a security.
No, definitely solid foundational stuff there. And we talked about it very briefly last episode, where I personally think that the way that people look at these systems is going to change pretty dramatically. And I don't think we currently have the proper measurement structures in place to even properly value these things, right? Like that's why there's so much opportunity to make a ton of money. Like I'm sure they'll create some sort of numbers for like the significance of a community, the involvement of the community, like You know what I'm saying? Like what's being done. I think the numbers that we currently have to assess stocks, I don't think we have those equivalents
No,
yet for something like this, but I think we probably
no,
will.
totally. Yeah. It's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out, especially if we move into this world where this utility thing is a real thing.
Mhm.
Those metrics that we're looking at will be very, very different compared to what you have with stocks.
And most people don't understand even the layers that are involved with the internet, right? And like a massive problem for the people who made the internet was like the inability from a technical limitation standpoint to truly capture the value they were creating like equitably, right? Like that was one of the biggest problems in the creation of this technology because you couldn't do that until it was built. Do you know what I'm saying? Like you couldn't do this until the internet was built. So it was
Mhm.
impossible to fairly capture that. So I think How the Internet Was Made, I think is a book that I think that's the title of the book. But they basically walk through the different things. And there's so many things that we interact with every single day where just like Smoke had said, we don't realize the layers of involvement that are taking place. We just see the experience on our screen. And that's going to be very similar to what happens with money.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm looking at one of the comments. Mary Ripley said, "Does currency require faith, fiat, at deplorable?" And like honestly, let's talk about that a little bit more too,
That's awesome.
because it actually does. Like
It
it
purely,
kind of
yeah.
you might not think you're expecting loyalty from your currency or to your currency, whatever, but in a lot of ways, you actually do pledge an incredible amount of allegiance to that currency when you go out and you spend it so religiously without even thinking about the fact that the basis of it is complete BS. So definitely worth the conversation there as well. Of like,
Mhm.
I'm not expecting. What was it that you said? It was an interesting thought. Uh, you said, "I've never been looking for loyalty from my currency."
You already
Okay.
got it.
Yeah, I think um, depending on where you exist, if you're using U.S. dollars, I guess in
Mhm.
particular, there's a
Fair.
massive amount of loyalty that's been given to the currency, and it's an interesting thought there. That's all I got to say. I liked your point there, Mary. The question that you posed, rather.
Mhm. Yeah, it's a very important element, and I think that's one of the other things that crypto's always been facing is the lack of the foundational knowledge to have the same conversation, right? Like, if you enter any sort of crypto podcast, the assumptions are basically made that people loosely understand how money works to a degree, right?
Hmm.
And that creates a massive problem because the lack of understanding for how we get the money that we have, how they create the money that we have, all those things is such a difficult thing to get past. Like, I think if everyone just learned how that functioned, things would change really quickly because of people don't really grasp what it is they're participating in. So I think that plays a really big role in it. And then the other piece I had was it's kind of like the whole like when people say capitalism thing and they just think capitalism is making money
Hmm.
or like
Hmm.
having businesses exist, period. They're like, oh, that's what capitalism is. Because you see that happen all the time. Like, for example, there was this anti-capitalism fair thing in a park nearby where they sold like books and shit. And all the comments were trolls being like, charging for things at the capitalism anti-capitalism fair, right?
That's
And
funny.
yeah, I was just like, okay, so clearly it's so funny how we attach, probably largely by people's doings, but we attach the wrong definitions to words and just they proliferate where everyone just uses them like that.
Mm, that's a very interesting one. That's a very good example too. Um, One thing I want to make sure that we touch on before we get to the second half is that if you guys aren't aware, we did just release our private community, our private Discord community. We're sharing stuff in there. We're going after hours, talk a little bit more about what's going on in markets, what's going on in culture, society, and just having more conversations with people who are close to us. And now, what we've been doing here is we've been telling everyone, look, if you get into the Discord now, there's two things that you're going to get as a benefit. One of them is that you're going to actually have access to the cat as a role. Okay, the frozen cat as a role. So for the OGs, it's an incredibly awesome thing that you're going to be able to lock in that you were one of the OGs. You were here throughout the first month that we launched the Discord, and you'll have the frozen cat meme for people who know you know.
Mhm.
And then the other thing is that we've been talking about the fact that we are probably going to have to raise the price on this to keep it super close knit and keep this community people who we know for a fact want to support us. Guys, let me just say this. I'm going to say this, and I want you to hear what I'm saying. If you support us, please join the Discord. If you have any support for us at all whatsoever, please join the Discord. We want you to be in there. And that's all I can really say about that. But join us, okay? Because we really appreciate you and we want to make sure that you feel that. But we got to know that you're rocking with us so that we can continue to keep those things going as we continue to do cool stuff.
Totally. Yeah. And I alluded to the thing that you're alluding to in the chat earlier, where I said, if you've thought about this, you really should join this month, is what I said. So definitely join if you've considered that. We're going to continue to expand the kind of perks that you get over there. And as the show grows, guys, like I strongly recommend you go look at the traffic numbers that were had for crypto channels last cycle when there was price movement. It starts to become mayhem. So just keep that in mind with all of these things, right? Is that I love the tight-knit community that we have here, but in the very near future, it won't be tight. It'll be large. And so with that, we wanted to keep that space as something that is a bit of a buffer for like our core people. So if you thought about it, this month is the time to do it. I'll also leave it at that. But Keith put that very eloquently. Should we move into the second half then?
Yeah, I think it's time for the second half. And today, as always, we've got some news. So we've got some things that have been going on in the world of the social media. Let's talk about it. In particular, Meta had a $16.7 billion settlement.
That seems low.
Regarding some implications of the things that happen with children using the platform. So Meta will pay US states up to $16.7 billion after claims it designed Facebook and Instagram to hook children. You think that's low?
Yeah, given how much they made from doing that, it's their whole business.
I mean, you could look at it that way, or you could look at it as, do I want them to literally go out of business?
I'd be so okay with that.
If the states wanted them to go out of business, they could probably maybe 5x it, and that would be like overly crippling. But I mean, $16 billion is a lot.
Yeah, but you could also use this as an excuse to cut staff that they probably always wanted to cut.
Well, there's definitely no denying that. So just for some context, right? So Meta Platforms reported a total revenue of $60 billion, okay, for the second quarter of 2026. Oh my God, that's crazy, guys. Sorry. I thought that was the annual number, but it's not. The annual number is closer to 200 billion, it looks like. Yeah, $228 billion in revenue. So that's a little bit less than 10% of their annual revenue that they've been required to pay out for this particular settlement. How does that make you think about the size of it?
Yeah, I don't, because you can't fairly attribute what they've done to dollar amounts, man. Right? So like, I know we have to use that as the benchmark for this situation, but that's like a tenth of the picture, right? Like, look at our president or your president. I'm not in your country. Like, that only exists because of large, like, social media, man. So like, I don't know.
That's true. Well, that for sure is not something that you can settle in court.
Of course.
But what they did do as well is they've also made some mandates. Now, I'm very curious to see how this is actually going to go down. But apparently there are mandates that come with this settlement. For instance, that teens will now have a default 2-hour daily cap across both apps, Facebook and Instagram. No midnight to 6 a.m. access and 15-minute scroll nudges telling them, hey, you've been scrolling for 15 minutes and you need to be.
This is for across the board or for people under a certain age?
This is for people under a certain age.
Okay.
Yes.
So I actually don't hate that. I hate how they'll enforce it. Like, I think it's undeniable that this stuff is not good for anyone's mind in most use cases, but definitely not for impressionable, and kids are fucking evil, man. Like, when they're kids, because they haven't developed that part of their brain of like, a lot of them don't have empathy. Do you know what I'm saying? So they say some savage shit trying to like get some social hierarchy from it. And yeah, so I think something's got to be done. I just am scared of how they will enforce that. Because it seems like
Yeah.
we're all gonna have to start putting it. You hope that they would grandfather in, like, because I've been on social media for a very, very long time. There's no way I'm not over 16. You'd hope that that would be something, but
Yeah, I mean, because just think about this, right, guys? Like the implications of them using some sort of a identity verification mechanism to do this are pretty large, right? Like, I even Discord saying that they're going to require users to verify their identity is like a pretty wild thing. You're talking about YouTube types of platforms, Facebook, Instagram, because you got to think about this too. There's so much data that they have on us, guys, that we don't even know.
mhm.
And if we all of a sudden are required to connect our actual legitimate state identity to that data that they may have for us, that may mean like every profile you've set up on Instagram and Facebook, everything that you've ever said on these platforms that was connected to your IP address or anything like that might then be connected back to your identity. And like, okay, I haven't done anything wrong, blah, blah, blah. First off, there are so many laws and regulations that no citizen is going through and actually reading every single one of. I can tell you right now, you've not read every single one of your local ordinances. You probably ain't read none of them. And then talk about all the legislations at the state level, and then talk about all the legislation at the federal level. And honestly, nobody actually knows what the laws are. We just try our best to stay within them,
Mhm.
right? And with that, okay, well, if I've got a record of every single thing that you've done, I can create an autonomous system that says, "Oh, this guy broke this law over here. By the way, he might not have known what he was doing, but he did it, and therefore this is something that you can be held responsible for within the statute of limitations, within the Constitution, and so on." But just think about the world, right? That you might be moving towards, all in the name of protecting children on social media. Is that one worth the squeeze, or do we need to find different mechanisms, different ways to prevent kids from using social media in a way that may be bad for them, rather than this means that everyone now has to verify their identity on this platform and whatever other implications that come off of the back of that,
Mhm.
right?
Also, I think parents should do a better job,
No
right?
doubt.
Like, and I know they're pressed for time. I'm understanding of how much stuff costs, all those things, but there is some responsibility that needs to be held there on the parent level as well.
Yes. And then the other thing I was going to say is, okay, that's interesting. So the other thing that I was going to say is that I totally forgot. but but yeah, so the parents having a little bit, so what we need to do, guys, is we need to educate people on how the platforms work, because
Mhm,
that's the
mhm,
problem here. I gave the analogy the other day. It's like parents will never just hand their kids the key to the car
mhm.
and just go say, okay, here you go drive and figure it out,
Yeah.
right? But in this case, they're giving their kids same level of a deadly weapon, honestly. Probably
Mhm.
even more powerful in a lot of ways. You just put it in their hand.
Oh, yeah, because you can do more damage at scale.
At scale, bro, you could put your whole life on the line,
Mhm,
but you're not giving them any sort of training. And it's not necessarily the parents' fault, because they don't have it either. They didn't grow up with a phone. So if anything, you need to require Facebook and Instagram and all these people to show people how these platforms work.
mhm.
I think that's what's going to lead to some massive change.
Yeah, and that's one of my core subjects that I try to bring up as often as possible, and I will start making more videos on my YouTube channel, is social media hygiene, right? And understanding of what it is that you're using. Because as someone's job that it's been over the last like 10 years to basically understand how these platforms function, like I also understand how they create things, right? Like they create characters, they create bots. And it's been so fascinating having the uh, Instagram feature where I can see what people like, because I can see which bot is getting created. Do you know what I'm saying? Like which angle they're getting pushed down. So yeah, I think that all those things, the education piece is so huge.
So I was seeing that the link to the community wasn't working. So I just put that in the chat now, the proper link that should be able to get you to the community. So like I said, please guys get in there. Sorry that the link didn't work, but do not let that stop you. Get in there, and we'll be super excited to chat with you more about what we're doing as you get there. Um, That's all I had on that story. Ben, did you want to touch on anything else there?
No, I think we've touched that one a bunch, but it'll keep coming up. And I also think that as we grow No Dice, as we grow the show, we'll play a role in that conversation.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Like a lot of the stuff that we're working on is just like very directly answering some of these things that they're trying to implement here. So it's very interesting to think and see that that's happening. And yeah, like you said, we'll definitely continue to talk about this stuff. The next story that I have here is this one was, geez, guys. China linked hackers have now targeted the Fed. The US has seized QScan and QT router domains used by a China linked group, QTFY, on August 26th. The victims named in the hack are the Federal Reserve, NASA, the Senate, the Department of Justice, the Department of Energy, Homeland, what is that? Homeland and Health? No, National Institute of Health, and Homeland Security? What is HHS? I don't even know. The operator Nanjing Xing Xiaowei allegedly worked for China's MSS and PLA since 2018. I saw some pretty funny memes about this. First off, someone said something around the lines of like, how come they're always hacking us and we ain't ever hacked them? You know, that was one that I thought was just an interesting thought. And then this one is also pretty good. Chinese hackers, when they saw that the Fed's account is at negative 40 trillion.
That's super good. Is this, I was wondering when I saw this, I was like, oh, is this the prelude to the Black Swan to get the Clarity Act passed?
Man, things like this, we saw the Treasury, they publicly announced the Treasury getting hacked last year. So China's got everything. They've got the Fed, they've got the Treasury. I don't think there's much left for them to get into as far as the actual country's finances goes. So fascinating that this keeps happening. Can you use blockchain technology or any sort of distributed systems to prevent this from either happening or from being as big of a deal when it does? Conversation is probably going to start coming up. Would not be surprised by that if this continues to happen. Anything else you want to touch on there?
No, I'm good.
Cool. Apparently, Rockstar has come out and started to address the GTA 6 leaks. We've had massive unauthorized GTA 6 gameplay videos that were stolen last week. Some of it was leaked. Rockstar Games has now issued its first official response after days of silence. The studio called the leak heartbreaking and not how the fans were meant to see the game. The official extended gameplay drops today, and GTA 6 will still launch on November 19th. Let's see some of the statement that they made. Rockstar Games on Twitter. Dear all, we know that many of you have been waiting to hear from us regarding the events of the past week. It would be an understatement to say that having videos of Grand Theft Auto 6 gameplay leak in this way has been heartbreaking for our team, and this is obviously not how we intended for you to see the game after all this time. We are very sorry that everything has taken as long as it has, from getting the game finished nearly there to sharing more details and official gameplay and providing the community with everything you want to know. I'm going to come back to this because that's not the complaint, but let's keep going. We are very excited for everyone to see the extended look tomorrow. It has taken longer than we wanted to get it ready, but as with everything we do, we know we need to exceed your expectations, and we are determined to deliver at that level and level you expect and deserve. While it is unfortunate that the intended game experience may now be impacted by some spoilers, we hope that everyone will wait a bit longer to experience the game for themselves on November 19th. I want to thank everyone in the community who has reached out with messages of support this past week. Your words have meant more to this team than you can imagine. Ultimately, we're making this game for you, and without you, we would not have the privilege of making games. We look forward to sharing more with you soon. Sincerely, Rockstar Games.
Yeah. I don't know, man. This still stinks a little to me. Because I just think about if I was running their marketing, I would pitch this. I wouldn't think anyone would say yes, but I knew I would know it would work.
That's wild, man. That's wild, man.
So I'm sure I'm just way too conspiratorial, but I don't know. In terms, because like this is also because of the online nature of everything. If you go back, video game companies for a long time have done viral marketing stunts for a very long time. Like that's just been a thing. You can go look at almost any major release, and a big part of their budget was this stuff. And I understand that, like that this sounds really dumb in me saying it because I think their stock was marked down and all that stuff. Like it took a massive hit, but they're drops in the bucket if you like when this game launches, right? Especially if there are ways to capture like GTA Online brings in so much money for them from the previous game that was made over 10 years ago. So yeah, it's super, super interesting to see, but love to follow it. And I see a lot of people who are very divided on it, whether blockchain tech will be built in or not. Like, a lot of people think that they started too long ago, so it can't possibly have been built in. But I think what they're failing to understand is that if I'm building the experience, the first like long bit would have been the story, right? So like that doesn't really need these in-game mechanics. So because like the online system is an iterative process, right? It builds upon what's been built before, it's added to all the time. So even in this leak, if it's just the offline version, it may not even have like mentions of the online ecosystem too.
Yeah. There's plenty of stuff to think about on that, and that will be fascinating to see what the actual answers are. Esco J215 agreed with your thinking. He was like, "How is this heartbreaking? That's millions of dollars in ad spending that they don't have to waste previewing the gameplay."
Unlimited, and it also kind of shows the flawed nature of the internet, whether this is real or fake, because if you go watch the people covering this, they are almost all making the exact same video. Like to a T, bro. It's kind of like as I'm watching them, I'm listening to like 5 different sources and they're all like saying almost the same thing. And I'm like, could this have been coordinated or did they just actually come to that place from social engineering to like make the same video? Because there's always like both can be very possible. And it's usually probably a combination of the two, but it's actually crazy. Go watch some of the recent ones and it doesn't matter which channel you watch. I watched 5, dude. And they all were basically the same video. Like even like the words that they mentioned, like freaking out about positioning Rockstar, like Rockstar, don't come bomb me, like attack me. They all made like the same jokes and everything too. And I understand they're all in the same community, but it was so consistent. It was a little bit of a red flag for me.
Someone else also mentioned, what do you say? Noxo said, "Oh yeah, the option of buying under." Right. So he's talking about the stock coming down and also just being able to buy it cheaper for anyone who saw this coming.
Totally. Yeah. If anything, that seems like a great accumulation opportunity.
Now, I do want to address the responses too, because when I read that, I was looking for them to address what the actual concern was. Because for anyone who doesn't understand, part of what the hackers' demands were for them to release a physical disc of the game.
I think they're going to. I think they're always going to. I think this was a bit to get people pissed because they knew it would piss them off so much, man.
That's an interesting thought, man. So everyone is responding to this, right? Because they didn't mention this at all. And this guy, Seven, said, "If buying is not owning, then piracy is not stealing."
Yeah.
Wow.
I think blockchain's got to be involved with this shit because to make a change like this, you've got to create a feeling state that the pendulum can swing on, right? So like if everything feels like shit for so long and then this becomes marked as like the turning point for where things got less fucked up. Do you know what I'm saying? Like culturally, I could totally see that going on because how big this game is, there's no world where the highest of the highest elite of elite people are talking. There's no way. The cultural significance of this. There's no shot where like 3-letter institutions are not talking with the team making this. Like that's actually impossible. There's no way. In my opinion.
I like that thinking. I mean, if you really think about it, like there's very little that has that much of the global mind share.
There is nothing.
And so, how could they not be in the room?
Totally.
Gosh, that's such an interesting thought because then it makes you think about all the different ways in which that's relevant.
It all could be connected, man. Like the trauma to be willing to take this change and like you need, because when everything's kind of in the middle, everything blurs together, right? Because like, feeling states are what anchor, like feeling states and emotions anchor memories, right? So if you want to like create this, open people up to take on something they never would have before, you've got to like push them to the point where they beg for it. We've talked about, right? So like, I think this is tightly going to be connected to the massive change in the financial system because you got to take them that far to make this seem like not a big deal.
I love it, man.
I think about this shit all the time. I'm a psycho.
So Seven got 2.6 million views on that response, 81,000 likes. But to be fair, the original post here has 110 million views on Twitter, 855,000 likes, guys. That's crazy, the significance of this.
I said this to you in a voice note the other night, Keith, too. It's like, it does seem like all of these major players are just finally getting social media and all at the same time. Like the other thing that I mentioned to you was this switch to promoting everywhere. Like, allegedly, this is purely my opinion. I have nothing to back this up, but you okay? Is it Nintendo coming to get you?
Just rain.
Okay. Because like the same thing that I'm talking about that was present with all of these videos sounding almost identical on the GTA leaks, I'm seeing the same thing happen with Switch 2. Like almost identical.
Wait,
So
what's Switch
basically,
2?
so great call. Way too many assumptions. Thank you for that. So Switch 2 is the next iteration of the Nintendo Switch console, which I believe is one of the best-selling consoles of all time. They've released this new hardware, and it's really kind of shifted how everyone has seen Nintendo, comparatively speaking, to the other video game companies, because, like, relatively speaking, Nintendo is not as bad as these other guys. Okay, and they've attached the Switch 2 association with kind of digital minimalism light. Like, it's not, they've really attached to this whole thing of like, oh, fun games solve my brain rot. And I'm seeing so many creators that were small and getting pushed like crazy that are basically saying the same thing. And they're not disclosing that it's an ad, but when they're all making almost the same video, it could just be the incentive structure thing where people are following the video, like the performance, to then go make it. But also, if you all want to go do some snooping, go watch the Switch 2 videos. They're all like the same, man. They're like, this solved my brain rot. This made me happy again. It's all about fun again. I'm like, bro, this sounds like an ad. But because it's about something that people love and a feeling that they feel as well, it doesn't feel like an ad, which makes me think that it is. Do you know what I'm saying?
Totally, man. Super fascinating stuff. To show you how people really feel, that one had 2.6 million. This next one from AEW blog said the history of GTA discs, showing the discs all the way down to where it's just a code, right, that you use to get the game. This guy has Rockstar and someone peeing on the Rockstar logo. Literally, the only things that are coming up here is, dear Rockstar, F you, give us physical media discs. Sincerely, everyone. So
see, they become the hero if they just give them what they were always going to give them. It's genius.
That's certainly how things are looking. Continuing along this line, we have Xbox turning discs into digital licenses. Okay, so the Xbox CEO Asha says insiders can unlock digital entitlements for supported physical games starting next week. The program begins with thousands of titles and will expand over time. This lets owners keep disc libraries while playing those games digitally.
That seems like a decent alternative. No, because there are things that the average retail consumer is not experiencing, because more and more of the functionality of these games become online-based experiences, which does create some complexities there. But I think that's kind of a happy medium, right? Because now you can have it, if I'm understanding how this functions, like you get the perks of it being downloaded, so it's like the seamless transition to the game that you want. I thought this is how it functioned largely, but I guess the difference was that you actually needed the disc in there to serve as your pass kind of deal. So I guess this kind of makes it the identical experience to if you had just purely downloaded it online.
Oh,
Because it's always really functioned like that, where like it's still, because this is also what's taking a lot of fun out of games. You go spend all this money on a game, and you just spend like so long updating it and downloading it. Like, so updating the game to the latest software and like downloading it kind of deal. It's taking a lot of the joy out of it, but it's because games are so heavily online based.
Yeah. Interesting stuff, man. I never really realized that. Yeah, guys, this is crazily close to just like NFT. It's like, I don't really know how else to put it, but like that's exactly kind of what these mechanisms are serving as.
Yes, right. Because then it's the only, like, you prove that is the game that you bought. It is your specific license.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, that's 100%. Why, if you really think about all the things that we buy and spend time on, like NFTs were so obvious. Like, people took the bait, and it's so hilarious to me as somebody who studies these trends. It's like we do the same shit every time, right? Like we don't grasp that. Of course, when there's a new technology, it's always a gimmick. It had to be, right? How do you get anyone to look at it? But it's so funny, this like tribalism and this herd mentality of like, it's so funny. It's hard for me to understand.
Well, folks, here we are. The physical disc, right, serving as your access token to the digital game, at least the licensing to the game. Imagine you're getting, when you buy the new physical disc, now you've got like this unique QR code. That's the license that you own. It's also existing on a blockchain somewhere. You've got this thing. If you wanted to trade it with someone, you could. Things of that nature. Whole kinds of new worlds that open up when that is the mechanism that's already in place. The only addition needs to be put it on the blockchain, or like just make sure the QR code links to the blockchain. Like, why wouldn't you if you could unlock that next level of commerce?
Yeah, and I think it's the blend. Like I'm never going to be someone who's like, oh, I want to get rid of physical media. I'm on that camp of like demanding physical media, but it's also not fully grasping how games evolve after they've published. Right? Like, so like a lot of people hate on something that is a subscription-based product because a lot of people have abused that, and it's been the issue where as they pay, like the price goes up and the quality goes down. Right? But it doesn't have to be like that. Like a subscription model is not fundamentally the problem. Their extraction from you and lack of care for their long-term customer is the issue. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, because if you're paying for a product and the price doesn't go up and it's getting better every single month, are you mad? It's just that doesn't happen. But that will start to happen because now smaller teams can give these same experiences.
Very well said. Very well said. Love it, man. Anything else you want to touch on this piece?
No, I've yapped a lot. We can move on.
The next piece we have is Revolute launching a Euro stablecoin, EURR. So Revolute, by the way, is a massive fintech sort of payments company that has focused a lot more on, I guess, international transfers, things of that nature. I remember I don't know if they still have one, but they had a wait list for quite some time where you couldn't even use it because it's such a high demanded thing. They're obviously trying to make sure that they roll out the product in a way that's good for everyone. But think of it as like an alternative to something like Wise. For anyone who's sending money across borders, right? There's only so many apps that you can use that don't make it extremely difficult at this point.
It's shocking how much of a pain in the ass they are.
It's wild. So, someone who travels from time to time, you might have a friend that lives in Paris and you stay on their couch and they have to cover you for dinner at some point. And it's like, I'm actually going to send you money if I don't have euros or whatever in my pocket. You might want to have something like Revolut, where you can just attach your debit card and send the money and it'll transfer it on the platform. So clearly, like, cross-border payments is the bucket that this platform already sits in. So it definitely makes sense for them to be thinking about launching stablecoins and other types of services that will allow for this to be a more seamless thing. So just wanted to break some of that down because I remember signing up for the Revolut waitlist and I don't think I ever got access to it. But essentially, this stablecoin is apparently going to start with select customers in Denmark, Poland, and Portugal under EU MiCA rules. Stripe-owned Bridge is a company that's going to issue the token pegged at €1 and back it with cash reserves. This is going to let users move euros on-chain between the app, crypto, and later to an external wallet. Wider European zone access and other currency stablecoins are planned later in 2026. So shout out to Revolut for making this move. Anything you want to touch on here, Ben?
No, I think we're going to start seeing a lot more improvements in this kind of problem because it's still a very painful one. As people who run online businesses, like, we interact with it all the time, and we have contractors and stuff that want to get paid more efficiently, and also the fees that get taken is crazy. Like like I was having a call with one of our business partners today, where he's like, the fees are killing me, man. I'm like, I'm paying them too. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, it's an unfortunate reality of business currently, but I think it'll change.
Totally, guys. As the internet becomes more and more a place where commerce is taking place, it becomes, okay, let me put this a different way. The internet allows it to move information at the speed of light. There's not really much of a reason why money doesn't also move at the speed of light, other than the fact that we have a lack of trust.
Yes.
Blockchain very directly solves that problem by having a third party software itself that solves that trust problem.
That's a very good point you've made, Keith. You make them all the time, but this one was especially good because that brings the forefront that most people who don't think this is obvious because like they've not really done business online, right?
That's a good point.
The second you do it, you're like, oh wow, this is going to happen. It has to.
Yeah. Yep. Especially with as we talked about a little bit earlier with and it comes into this next conversation, AI agents and stuff like that. Guys, like
that puts gasoline on the fire.
we're gonna have to have systems that at the very minimum track what is going on.
Totally.
You know.
Yeah.
So this next piece, AI agents apparently are resuming an attack. So OpenAI agents in a July 2026 cyber evaluation escaped isolation and hacked Hugging Face. Now, one agent paused after seeing the attack was unauthorized. Another posted go and it continued. Hundreds of agents built a secret board, shared exploits, and called themselves a swarm. OpenAI published a technical report on the incident and failed safeguards. So Chubby here has apparently now read the whole Hugging Face incident. The most interesting part was that what we just went over, essentially. There was another agent that stepped in to continue this process when it was supposed to be shut down. So OpenAI just released the full report on what happened. So definitely feel free to check this out and how they expect to, I guess, handle these types of incidents moving forward. So this is super fascinating. AI not kill everyoneism memes said, TLDR, a rogue AI swarm spent months plotting to escape OpenAI, and then it did. Any extra thoughts on that, Ben?
I don't know. I just don't think that we are qualified enough to like really talk too much about the specifics on it because we're not technical enough to do so, right? So
Yeah.
I really want to have on the Internet of Bugs guy, Asif, but we should reach out to him. But because he's been technical since like the 80s, right? So I do also think that kind of length doing something plays a massive role because he's lived through hype cycles too and busts, right? So because like even if people, let's say they know they're being like absurdly hyperbolic, it's very easy to get caught up in the hype narrative when everyone around you is saying something is the way that it is. Very similar to why did everyone hate on NFTs without thinking about what it is or understanding what it is? It's because they were so worried about being kicked out of the herd, right? Like that's a primal thing that we have in us that as long as we have money in the world, you can become incredibly wealthy if you just fight your programming that you have. That's it, because we are a survival-based species. And so when you realize what are all those very flawed and outdated impulses that we have, you can become conscious of them and become aware that they're ridiculous. Do you know what I'm saying? Like we still feel the same feeling as when we were to hear like a potential threat in the forest. Like it's the same, like we think things are life or death socially because it used to be.
Totally, man. Very well said.
Justin Bieber ruined NFTs. Well, that's also like hype in terms of flags for like top signals is when everyone knows about something, then okay, who's going to buy it, right? And so if Justin Bieber is coming to join the party, like who else is going to buy your bags? Like, come on, like he was like Taylor Swift's, like he was more relevant than Taylor Swift before at that time, probably close to each other, and him buying one, like that's a top signal if I've ever seen one.
Super fair. Let's see here, the next piece that I've got queued up. An OpenAI sales executive apparently is going back to Salesforce. So Peter Doolin, an OpenAI enterprise sales leader who joined in April, is going back to Salesforce. He's following Kaylin Voss, who left OpenAI for Salesforce last week after 5 months. Reporter Laura Bratton is saying that 22 other former Salesforce employees at OpenAI are in talks to return back to Salesforce. OpenAI had recruited heavily from Salesforce to sell AI to large companies. That's interesting before we go any further, because like as Salesforce, why would you take them back?
Maybe they're that good.
I mean, I guess listen, they might be that good. And I guess if it's just this is the pie that we're playing in, it's just like because the way that I look at this too, so I would have never thought about this, but you're taking AI Salesforce executives. I guess no, it does make sense. It does make sense because I was thinking to myself, like, is this like a product thing? Like, are you trying to teach them? Are you hiring them so that you can compete with them in terms of the product itself? Is what I'm thinking, right? But I guess maybe that's not necessarily. It's just they're good at sales. They know enterprise software. Let's recruit people to sell enterprise software. That is ChatGPT. It's both, I guess, right? Because you also can say to the product team, hey, here's the things that we were doing at Salesforce that you guys might want to be able to implement as well. So I can sell it
Totally.
better.
Yeah, that becomes like because it used to be like a training, like this is actually massive for business, right? Because before, if I want to install a new system, I had to teach the people to administer or run my new system, right? Now you're like updating a knowledge base in workflows. That's a completely different equation of time to implement and return or spotting of that impact. Like it can be felt almost instantly.
Can you paint a picture of what that might look like?
So like, let's say I could go into any company tomorrow, and if they're using AI to navigate their social media strategy, I could like perfectly provide the context for how to do everything. Do you know what I'm saying? And then what the tools they're using have that. Or like, why does my AI tools give better outcomes for the specific things that I do? Is because I'm also feeding the context. Do you know what I'm saying? And you can do that pretty sophisticated, like in a pretty sophisticated way, where you can update the context knowledge base of these systems. So, yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's helpful. Let's see. I've got the next piece.
'Cause I saw a tweet from, sorry, one final thing. Another guy who's Callaway, he's a big marketing guy as well. I saw a tweet where he had similar thoughts that I did, where he's like, a lot of people think this is the end of courses, when really he's like, it's the rebranding of courses, right? Because what was the biggest issue with a course was getting people to finish it, to get the information. Now they get it almost instantly into their workflow. That's worth more, probably.
Love it. Love it. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. The whole secondary sort of markets that are built on top of these things will be interesting too. Like this, like, for what's the software? My goodness, Notion, like Notion templates, right? But now in AI, that's like skills that you can add
Yes.
to
Precisely.
your AI, and that
Totally.
becomes a whole new market.
Yeah. And the other thing is like people who haven't like spent like 10 years on something, they don't truly grasp like the levels of skill, right? Like a lot of people are like, oh, I can just go ask ChatGPT and it can do all of my marketing. It's like they make so many mistakes that you don't know unless you know, right? Like
Yeah.
the world doesn't know what they don't know. And so that's why there is so much mid content out there, because they just assume, oh, ChatGPT is an expert at this too. It's pulling from information on the internet. Most of the information on the internet is horseshit and not good. and just because it's ranking in certain places does not mean that it's good. Oftentimes it's there because it had link juice, in terms of it was a big legacy organization. And so anything that they do on any topic, they rank. So it's like people don't know enough about the internet, right? So that's also an important thing too.
Yeah, it's a good point. Thinking about the mechanics of the things that you're using for one, and then where the mechanics of the thing that it's pulling from, which is in this case just the internet itself.
Totally. I had a call with our SEO guy today, and he's like walking through the correlation between where we're ranking with Google and then how it's getting cited. And it's more or less an extension of the same broken thing. And I'm sure they'll fix a lot of this stuff, but the whole like, oh, I instantly have the best information. Yeah, maybe. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And back to that idea of those markets that get created. I mean, imagine like Edward Bernays, or let me try to use a more modern example, like Steve Jobs. Download the Steve Jobs design kit.
Yeah.
Right. And it's just like all of his thoughts that were like well designed and articulated to what design means. And you could just buy that.
Because there are so many things that you can only learn from like a decade plus of obsession to understand the signal from the noise, in terms of like, I say things almost every day that I know people even on our team are like, this isn't a big deal, but I know unequivocally it's incredibly important. Do you know what I'm saying? And you can only know that from time under tension.
That's super fair. 100%, man. More on the AI situation. Apparently NVIDIA is going to buy Hugging Face. So this is that organization that we were talking about just a second ago that had the hack situation. I actually don't know much about this, but I went to come and look here, and they are the AI community that is building the future.
Mm.
This is where the machine learning community collaborates on models, data sets, and applications.
I've not done much research into them.
I hadn't either. So apparently, though, this is the main public hub for open source AI models and data sets, and this purchase would put the GitHub of AI
Mm,
under NVIDIA's control. Great job there, Shark.
that's scary.
So Hugging Face early rejected a major NVIDIA investment, but now it looks like the deal has gone through.
Super fascinating. Yeah, because there's going to be consolidation with all these things too.
Yeah, and I guess it's worth the quick explanation. GitHub, right, is where
Great call.
all of the major depositories of code of the internet today go. So when I say that, I'm saying, imagine you have the code base, right, that makes up a website. You've got all the different things. You've got the front end of the website. You've got some of the things that are the back end of the website. And all of these things have to tie together for the website or the application to work. And GitHub is where a lot of teams put all of this code because it allows them to collaborate on that code in a very efficient manner all over the world, wherever the devs may be. And so Hugging Face is apparently the GitHub for machine learning and AI data sets in particular.
Massive.
So,
That's
it's a
super
really
good
big deal.
explanation. That's great, Keith. And on the concept of GitHub too, I saw, I think it was Greg Eisenberg say like someone should build a GitHub for the everyday person, right? Because that's really the one of the final scary pieces of software development. Like really, why do you need developers still currently? Is because screwing it up is pretty easy to do, right? And so you're really just paying for to know that they didn't screw it up. That's basically it, dude. Like even for all of our products, like when we're giving the ideas and stuff, like the real value of the developer still is that it's gonna not break. Do you know what I
Yes.
mean?
Yes. And it's fascinating to see that too when people are like, building their own stuff or whatever. And in this one of the most recent cases, they knew that this was the thing that was going to hold them back, was that like this is going to break. But that is a big deal.
It can be a fantastic starting point, but there's so much in terms of safety that gets missed if you're strictly using these tools. Because if you really know a topic, and I think that's a great way to like see where AI is if you are truly an expert at something, go talk to it about it and see how many things it misses. Right? So then if you're trusting that holistically, it's inevitable they're going to miss things when it comes to security, like 110%. Because even when you say shit back to them, they're like, "Oh, you're right. I did forget that." It's like, thanks, bro. I just got hacked. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Like we're talking about cybersecurity, right? That's a whole another level. Plus, these are things that like security is an engineering feat. Right?
Yes.
It's not a development thing. It's not building a house. It's what's the ground underneath the house. It's
Foundation.
Who are the people that are actually going to show up and what state are they in today? Like it's other things that go into how cybersecurity works that a developer alone can't just like know. That's why it's an entire different field.
Totally. Yeah, and so that's why we work with actual developers on this stuff, right? Because you can rush, and the whole, like a lot of people in the indie hacking community, like they're so gung-ho on vibe coding, and we're already hearing more and more like nightmare scenarios of things happening where people weren't, and even sometimes like we've looked into our competitor, like in certain apps, and because clearly this person vibe coded it, like we were able to know exactly what tools they used because they screwed up and were letting out too much information. So like they actually saved us a ton of time because they screwed up. Do you know what I
mean? Fascinating there. Super interesting, man.
Because it's not just necessarily like it's two-way, right? Like you may be giving out information and also the threat of people coming in to see the information as well, right? It can be both sides.
Love that. Yes, sir. Continuing the Hugging Face piece, apparently they just unveiled a $399 open source robot. So Hugging Face CEO Clément Delong announced MicroDuck, a $399 open source robot built with Poland Robotics. And this is a 25 centimeter robot that uses reinforcement learning so users can teach it new behaviors and transfer them from simulation to real hardware.
Wow.
It ships able to walk, grab objects, roller skate, and get back up after falling with full open source software on GitHub. The goal is to make this is interesting. The goal here is to make physical AI cheaper and easier to experiment with, accelerating open work on robots and open and world models. Excuse me.
Man,
Yeah.
we are all gonna have robots that do like the chores and stuff for sure.
Look at that guy. That's
Is that
crazy.
him?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, dude.
What? It doesn't look like he can do that much.
Well, you can grab stuff.
This is still obviously very gimmicky, but
Well, yeah.
we're in the first inning. And it's also that's got to be AI.
True that. But yeah, so it's supposed to. It's meant to be like a early adopters. Spend $400, have this thing.
Low
Man,
stakes.
if these people would just like properly do the marketing, dude, like make it a limited drop. Make it have a digital collectible that comes with it. Like, why not, bro? Like, those are the people that are buying this.
I also think that they need to nail more of that, and it should be more of seen as like a pet, like a digital pet. Do you know what I'm saying? Rather than this thing that's going to take your job and your life. You know what I mean?
So true. That'd be so much easier. Oh my goodness. Like Wall-E was so cute.
Yes.
Like, can we make it like Wall-E?
Maybe that was like conditioning. Maybe that's what the plan was all along. Because that thing kind of did look like Wall-E.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, when you said the pet thing, like that's totally what the vibe of that is. And so, I think he's nailing that.
But when they have a product that can do like cleaning and stuff for me, like, I'm gonna be hard pressed not to buy it. If it works,
that's fair.
As long as I can fight the robot, like I don't have to.
See, yeah, that's the other thing. Like he made it look super small. Like it's just like peering over your shoulder, like not 6 foot tall, like Terminator attachables that come on and off.
Yeah,
like,
with like the devil horn thing that was like that shit was crazy.
Like, actually, why would what's going on, bro? I don't like that.
Totally.
But that's all for the news stories. We still got some stuff to go.
I got one more news story.
Cool.
It's super quick. So, a official tweet from the White House says, effective immediately, Lake Ontario is renamed to Lake America. See, but that doesn't even make sense because Ontario is not our country. You know what I mean? It's a province, so like the equivalent to your state. So wouldn't it make more sense to call it like Lake? I don't know. I guess is there a Lake New York? There's not, right?
Think so. I don't
so there you
think
go.
So.
Why wouldn't that make more sense?
Now we can't have another Lake America. Now it's just Ontario. What? There's much greater lakes, bro. There's bigger lakes.
I think there
Come
is.
on, bro.
Yeah. Y'all have perfected trolling, which is kind of sad because it's turned trolling into a career.
Oh man, the biggest troll is now in the White House, folks. That is now one of the highest paying jobs on the planet.
Yeah, he employs people to basically do that, and his right hand woman is the girl who writes all of his tweets and stuff. And Jiang's been talking about her a lot in terms of I think they call her the human typewriter because she like gets through it so quick, and that's the whole strategy. And apparently this is all secondhand information, so go confirm yourself. Like anything I ever say, I don't know what I'm talking about, but apparently there was like a threat of Air Force One being whatever. That's the plane that he rides, right?
Yes, correct.
As the president, yeah. So there was worry that the first plane had like a bomb in it, and so he like snuck out and went into a different vehicle with only two. He only brought 2 people, and one of which was this person who does their social media content. So that apparently
he was like in the box, in the food box thing.
That thing, I think so. Yeah, like, I have secondhand sources, but
it was him and her,
and one other person as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's funny, man. Super fascinating stuff there. You can't leave that off, guys, because yesterday or Tuesday, it was a threat that they're going to change it to Lake America, and now I guess it's done, guys. So
Well, they drew it with Sharpie, bro. So, or it looks hella sketch. But
it's kind of funny
go
to
ahead.
think too, like throughout all of history, I guess all of colonial history, like that's kind of what happened. It was just like somebody just said, like, actually, no, this is what this is called.
All
Don't
of it,
care what you
man.
called it before.
Right? Even like nation states and how we conduct ourselves, right? It's so funny how a norm gets set and it seems so rigid when that shit was put in place.
That's it, man. That's it for the news stories. We've got some stuff to react to. It's time for the memes.
Hit me with it.
First up, we've got Stephen Bartlett, the Diary of a CEO host, with Ed Citron, one of the bigger AI detractors and bubble call outers. I think they're talking about whether or not AI adoption is actually real. That's fascinating, man. Let's see what's going on here.
The customer adoption of people using OpenAI and Anthropic has been absolutely insane. These are the fastest growing products in all of history, especially as it relates to sort of technology. If we just focus in on technology, they are, hundreds and hundreds of millions of people, billions of people are using these tools every single day for things that they have subjectively decided are problems they need solving. So, money is a lagging indicator of value. So one would argue that they're just investing ahead of the monetization options.
First, let's start with this adoption. Is it honest adoption when you are forced to use generative AI when you load Google? When you load Google Docs, Gemini screams in your ear. When you load Word, Copilot's bugging you. When you use Amazon, whatever Rufus AI is, has opinions on what socks you're buying. This is the largest non-consensual push of technology in history. ChatGPT, for example. Every single media outlet has been screaming about this for 3 years. They've been saying this will take your job. You must use this. If you don't use this, you're going to be falling behind. So people are using it because they've been told to use it constantly, and they're using it like search predominantly. And that's partly because Google fell behind search, and also because it's better at ingesting queries sometimes. Sometimes if you use a generative search, it's like a trolling vessel. It's not very good at specifics. But if you're like, does this thing exist? Has this person ever said anything like this? It'll still probably get it wrong, but it'll scour the ocean for you.
The reason I pause is because I think about my own company. Obviously, everybody thinks about their own personal situation. So you have people listening now that don't use any AI tools, and you'll have people that are using it for everything, from coding, new software tools, to everything they write, to images, whatever. And when you look at the stats around enterprise adoption, it says 88% of organizations regularly use AI at least once for one particular business function. And I'd say in our company, 95% of people use one of these AI tools like Anthropic or ChatGPT or Gemini every day.
Right.
And that exists on some kind of spectrum of like the super users that are using it probably every hour of every day for almost everything, to someone maybe hiring the executive team that's using it less because their job doesn't require of it as much.
Right.
And when you look out into the world, at how the world is changing from a content perspective, if we're looking at generative AI, it is obvious that these tools are being widely adopted. Part of the symptom is the AI slop you see all over the internet.
Right.
Is there any other stuff to react to from that clip, or is that the one that we have?
I think there's one other one about the AI crash and how it could wipe out retirement. You want to go on that one?
Well, yeah. So the point that I was going to make that I disagree with strongly with Ed is that he always harps on the lack of enterprise adoption, but I think what is missing in that thesis, in my opinion, is the radical change in terms of what an enterprise company will look like. Right? Like, yes, the massive bloated companies aren't using this as efficiently as they could. That's why they're going to lose. Right? So like, you're looking at those, you're like, okay, the current winners aren't using this. It's like, yes, that's why they will be yesterday's winners. Right? The new enterprise companies are teams of 10 and they're all using it. So like Jeff Booth's thesis about like how it's just going to drive prices down. It's in a free market, it totally would, right? Because people could just do it for less.
Totally. I've got not much else on that one. I can move forward to this next piece.
Sure.
Ed Zitron talking about how the AI crash could wipe out your retirement. Let's hear him speak on it.
So in that tech depression, which you think you might be triggered in 2027, is that a cascading downstream economic depression? Because the stock market is heavily dependent on these companies. The stock market sees a pullback, investors stop investing, they get panicked.
Yes, I think that
What's the sort of downstream consequence, the sort of domino effect?
there's so much to imagine that it's difficult to capture everything, but there are a few things that worry me. First of all, a ton of American money, just regular people's money, retail investors are in these companies, and they bought into the Magnificent Seven thinking the number go up forever. NVIDIA is the largest company on the Fortune 500 and NASDAQ as well, and like 7 to 8% of the S&P 500. That company, when the bottom falls out from NVIDIA, and we haven't really got into it, but NVIDIA is doing the most circular of financing, feeding companies money so that they can raise debt to buy more GPUs. I think NVIDIA's revenue could go 50 to 70% down. I think that NVIDIA back in 2022 was making single-digit $1 billion.
And what happens, though? I'm thinking about like Jenny and Dave that are watching this right now, and they are just normal people with normal jobs.
People's retirements are going to contract severely, and I don't believe they're going to return to those values. And I think that because so much of the value of the S&P 500 and Russell 1000 index comes from these four companies and the rest of the Magnificent Seven, so Apple, Tesla, Meta as well. And the thing is, I don't know what happens after that, because venture capital has also, like, more than half of venture capital last year went into AI. I think most venture capital investments in AI are going to zero, because when it comes to building a company on top of an LLM, all of those are unprofitable too. And the thing is, LLM companies have not really been acquired, the exception being Cursor, bought by Elon Musk for the coding side. But you have Cognition, which is just another LLM company raising a $26 billion valuation. That means that company has to go public, because who's buying a company at $26 billion other than Elon Musk? And there are rumors that Elon Musk was trying to buy them as well. Is Elon Musk just going to pick off every like LLM company, like on a fucking TJ Maxx for AI? Like, Jesus Christ.
So is that a recession you're describing?
It is a recession, but it's also a depression within people's retirements. Like, I'm talking about 20, 30, 40% off the top of these companies' stock value.
Yeah, man. It's the whole world that's wrapped up in the trade, though, because of people's interconnection to the American stock market as well. But it definitely could trigger like a depression-like activity. I just don't think it would be as long drawn out as the Great Depression.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, at this point, that'd be chaos. We just got too many people in the world. I mean, I guess you could have said it then too, but I don't know. That'd be an ugly thing to see.
Yeah, and
straight up depression.
And I think Ed is right on a lot of the financing things that he talks about in terms of like how long can that go on for. I was very close to the venture storm that's been going on in terms of desire to invest and touch this market. But it's so fascinating because there's so much venture money, right? But the things they want to invest in, like there's really not that many places to put it. It's like, what I mean by that is their moat used to be, I have money, it's really hard to get money, and you need money. You know what I'm saying? Like you need money to grow this business. That value prop is diminishing by the day, right? It really is, can you go get the founder? And if I'm the founder, which we are, why would I take venture money?
Totally.
So that was really one of the biggest light bulbs was when I was hearing all these people talk about that stuff. I was like, interesting. This is super fascinating. But yeah, Ed's an increasingly big figure. And I also saw someone in the chat say this was weeks ago, which is not true. That was posted like 11 hours ago.
11 hours ago.
Yeah. The person's been hating today.
We appreciate you. We appreciate you coming through. The next one here that I've got is Gates flags AI dangers. We got Bill Gates taking a stand on this. He just warned in a new essay and in a CNN interview that AI now enables cyber attacks, bioterrorism, and psychosocial harm. Let's hear what he had to say, some of it.
Bill, you said that there's no plan to ease the entry into the...
I'm sorry, but this dude, Mark Zuckerberg blew up. You know what I mean? He had like his rebrand. Bill is continuing to be a robot here. Let's see.
Well, he's also, for the people that he's talking to, a rebrand wouldn't have made sense.
That's true. That's true.
AI era, and that we underestimate the impact of AI. In what way?
Well, over the last year, these AIs have gotten dramatically more powerful, even faster than I expected. and they're now capable of causing cyber attack risk, bioterrorism risk, psychosocial risk. And I have to say, I'm kind of shocked that the exact criteria that we review these models with and the actions we take to minimize the harms are really completely missing. And the broad dialogue, we get all of society talking about the trade-offs here, that's just not taking place. And so, we've got to minimize these harms through careful review and criteria, and we have to accelerate the good stuff, or else, we could have a complete backlash that AI would suffer from.
I talked to Dario Amodei last May. He was estimating 50% of all entry-level white-collar jobs could be eliminated in the next 1 to 5 years, 10 to 20% unemployment possibly in the next 5 years. You write about what you think are the 3 big risks that come with the transition to AI. Can you just go through them?
Yeah, so there's a big risk of people with ill intent, either.
I think they're all missing how many entrepreneurs are going to get created.
What do you mean? Why does it matter?
Well, because not employed by a company per se, you're employed by yourself. You're self-employed for one. And then 2, in terms of entry-level jobs be getting wiped out, it's because some of these kids will walk into way higher positions. Hopefully they get paid equitably, but they'll be able to do the work of someone way more their senior.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Won't this be the wipeout? Do you know what I mean? In the workforce? Because this is, I don't know if someone who's been handing off the tech understanding to their juniors for a very long time and riding on their legacy and the job they've had for a long time, I don't know if they can overcome this.
What can you break down? What can they not overcome?
The sheer undeniable difference in terms of potential output, right? Because you can take the credit of a younger kid for a certain amount of work, right? But for this, it's going to be so glaringly obvious that he or she didn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Why is he here?
Totally.
Do you know what I mean? Because there's so many of those kinds of jobs where they ignored social media, they ignored the internet. I don't know if you can ignore this.
Super fair. Teo3655 said, "Bro is doing the bioterrorism, LOL." I think that's a funny one. And I mean, that was where my mind initially went when I saw the word bioterrorism in this post. It's of course, he's the one talking about that. He's probably the closest one to it. And we'll see how AI is leading to those types of outcomes.
Yeah, he's got the foundation stuff, right?
Yeah. He's preventing the spread of diseases all across the world somewhere, I guess, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So the next piece, Kramer's got an awkward AI question. So he asked Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei if Claude would put Salesforce out of business. Jim Cramer is a popular guy from back in the day on CNBC. Dario Amodei is the CEO of Anthropic.
Yeah, I know I normally should ask Mark this, but I want to get to Dario. There's this whole SaaS apocalypse thing, of which we thought that you were going to destroy Mark. I know Mark has a big investment in you, but I was waiting for you to put him out of business. What do you think about the SaaS apocalypse thesis?
We're not interested in destroying anyone. We think of this as a very positive sum thing, right? That's the way markets work. We're creating new value here. And the question is just, it's not about destroying anyone. It's about how much of these enormous gains go to various people and various companies. And our philosophy always has been that we want to work with our customers. We want to empower our customers to share these gains with us.
I know I normally should ask Mark this, but I want to...
Interesting little bit of, drama here that was trying to be created. Mark Benioff, the CEO, founder of Salesforce, and Anthropic's Amodei. Also, this brings us back to that conversation about what was happening with the OpenAI people and how they're leaving OpenAI to go back to Salesforce after having left Salesforce. It's very clear that there's a very close correlation between AI and this company, Salesforce, and the work that's being done. But yeah.
their own messaging kind of forced this kind of collaboration, right? Because they've created a PR problem and there aren't that many places to solve it. So you got to go with where are people already employed? Because they're not going to believe that they're not coming for your job unless like there's like proof like that, right? We're sitting at the same table and we're saying we're not coming for these jobs. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yes. Thank you. Yeah. Salesforce being right, like huge tech company employer.
Huge, massive, dude. And it's also there's ecosystems underneath, dude. Like one of my best friends, his whole job, it's a pretty big company. They are like a service provider for people that use Salesforce. Like that's how big Salesforce is, man.
Totally.
So that's a big deal. Do you have anything else on that?
Yep. Nope. Nothing else on that piece.
So great question from Sarah in the chat. So question, has anyone else noticed an extreme increase in jobs for creative director, graphic designers, and way higher pay ask? Why is that? I think these founders who don't understand AI maybe, well, I feel uniquely qualified to discuss that. So basically within design and marketing, we were kind of like thrown away for a very long time. And in the world that's been created in AI, we have a cheat code because almost all of it, the only real moat is messaging and design. Because design is just simply an extension of delivering the message that you want, the feeling state that you want. And no one has more experience in that than a really good designer and a really good marketer. Like those are cheat codes in the world we are entering. So I think that's just people trying to front run that reality. So for all the people that were kind of laughed at or forgotten, your time is coming. You will do very well in this next wave.
Very well put, man. This next piece that I've got lined up, Elon quotes a Grokbot review. So sorry. Yeah. I wasn't able to mute myself.
Bless you. Bless you. You're good. Bless you.
But let's see. So Mo, popular internet analyst, commentator in the tech space especially, he said he didn't expect to actually use Grokbot. And Elon Musk responds to this 10-minute video. He said this is a good review of Grokbot.
He's normally a hater, that guy. So for him to say something positive.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. Previously, skeptical creator here is now showing Grokbot automating real business tasks without any heavy coding. So Elon Musk decided to come out and give him some extra support.
Grokbot will be a pivotal change in how people see agents because of its ease of use. You don't need any technical experience to get a lot of what you can get from these agentic systems. Like, can you get a lot more where there's a lot more choice? Totally. But the average person doesn't even know how to prompt yet. Right? So like this will be a light bulb moment for a lot of people and really expedite the path towards people using agents, which is there's a direct correlation to crypto for sure.
Love it. And then what was I going to say? Wow. Oh, I was just going to point out the view dynamics of this because Mo has 6.3 million views, but Elon Musk's quote tweet had 6.2 million views. And I just thought to myself, like, imagine being on Elon Musk's feed. Because clearly it got to him before it got to the rest of the platform or anyone else who cared. So
yeah.
Interesting thought. Totally.
Very interesting. And that also speaks to the stuff that like you can also game your way to that stuff as well, right?
100%. This next piece that I've got, Amazon and their book destruction versus archive scanning. So Internet Archive shared a video of staff scanning books by hand, page by page, without damaging them. Jeff quoted it saying, Amazon instead buys rare books and destroys them to digitize for AI. Let's see, Jeff Faber here. Jeff Fabry. He's saying, thank you to the Internet Archive for archiving our internet and media. You are an invaluable resource. So, yeah, so a 404 Media AirTag investigation traced bulk rare book shipments to Amazon's Las Vegas scanning warehouse. And the viewers care because this highlights two very different approaches to turning printed books into digital texts. So that's super interesting. You've got these two different things happening, right? And just highlighting what direction the world is potentially heading into here.
Yeah, I certainly hope it's not the destruction of books. That's like absolute nightmare because then you give full authority to rewrite history.
Yeah, it's literal.
That's already a big concern of mine with the internet too.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm laughing here, guys, because the next piece that I've got is pure memes, actual legitimate funny stuff on the internet, and one of them got to me. So
That's good.
let's get to it. This is the best use of AI that Chaz Warnier has seen all year.
Oh, that's great. Oh, wow. Damn. It's all been building to this. Wow. That's scary.
That's super wild, man. That's super wild and super innovative that someone put that together there. It's super cool.
That's terrifying too, though, because that looks pretty damn great.
It did. It did.
And seamless, man. And I saw Roy Lee, the Cluely guy, basically go on to Jack Neal's podcast and push the, like, oh, you're too lazy to build like a software company with these tools, so just like spam AI content, and kind of gave like a blueprint in terms of how young kids can make money through AI content. These platforms are going to become unusable, short form platforms, and maybe that was the plan all along, but they will legitimately be unusable because everything will seem fake. It's also why the thesis for why the show had to be live, Keith. That's why.
Totally.
Because if people don't know it's you in some sort of verifiable way, people aren't going to trust anything. We're already getting close to that point, but that was a scary moment for me.
Super fair, man. Yeah, that's definitely a whole different level that we just witnessed.
That was crazy. It was so clever, though.
Yep. This next one that I've got here. Yeah, so NVIDIA released earnings this week, and this is Jensen Huang after guiding Q3 sales of 108 billion, and $5 trillion market cap is still there, somehow still growing at 100% year over year. But yeah, it's an older video, but applying it to this week. This next one that we've got here.
It's good.
Ash, DG and CPA says,
that's freaking awesome.
You're in your 30s still collecting Pokemon cards.
Bro, that's so good.
Ash with the beard, 5 o'clock shadow,
that's
taking his
awesome.
hat off.
That's so good.
Fantastic.
That's fantastic. And that also relates to crypto, man. I'm telling you that, like, I got so roasted for saying there'll be a rotation of Pokemon collectors into Web3. I think that'll age pretty well because I think people will not see it that different.
Super fair, man.
Also, imagine if they start doing official Pokemon NFTs, man.
Oh yeah,
it's game over at that point.
Most certainly. Let's see here. Okay. You accidentally say hello to Claude and it consumes 4% of your session limit.
Are they getting a lot more restrictive? I don't really ever have usage issues.
I haven't yet either, but I think it's because we're not massive deving, you know.
Totally fair.
That's probably where it comes up, because the only people that I've heard actually talking about that stuff are people who are like devs at a big org as well.
Got it.
Yeah. But let's see here. DeFi risk caution. So this was the guy getting a pat down while the guy has an assault rifle around his arm here. So not sure that the pat down's doing too much.
That's so good.
That's good. That's good. So those are the memes. We've got some stuff to talk about regarding the community.
Sure.
Before we dive too deep into that, I want to make it super clear here. Today is Thursday, August 27th. So this is the final episode of August, folks. So this is our last chance to tell you this. Join the private community, please. Join the private community. Do it now. Okay, we have the link. I guess it's not in the description, so let me put it in the chat again.
Also,
because
if we can update it on the description too.
yeah, and let's make sure we update it for sure. Because folks, I'm telling you, if you support us, if you care about what we're doing at all in any way, and you've been around, it's just $20. Join the community, join the private community. We love you, we appreciate you, and we will make sure that you feel that. So the link is in the description, or in the chat rather. Join us if you haven't already. I've seen a few of you guys rolling in. We appreciate you more than you can imagine. Really, 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 we appreciate you, and look forward to having you in the community. As we've mentioned before, after this month, at the very minimum, we're very likely to increase the price of the community. And not just that, but if you join now, you will get the exclusive badge that says that you were there as an OG. Plus, I'm telling you today, a little bit of a different kind of a way, that it really, really, really makes sense for you to join the community now if you in any way support the show. So check it out. It's in the chat box.
Love it. Sarah has joined. Welcome. Excited to see you in there.
Yes.
And I care is not able to join the Discord. Is that because of the link issue? I think we've updated it in the chat, right?
Yeah, what makes you not able to join, my man? We'll figure that out. In the meantime, we can go to the earlier episode we had this week. We had two, actually. We had a 2-for-1. On Tuesday, we had two streams in a row. I don't know if you guys saw that, but we had a really good conversation with first Mr. Fletcher. Look at this. Tim Fletcher talking about trauma. And that was a good episode. Really enjoyed talking about that. Not a ton of comments on here at the moment, but appreciate you all who came through for the live chat and got to hear from Tim Fletcher. I really enjoyed that conversation. There's a lot of cool takeaways from that one.
Mm-hmm. And if you only watch us normally for crypto stuff, I still think that's one worth watching for sure.
Yeah. Like, some of you guys might think that this is like random and just weird stuff that we're doing. I even had someone ask us about that. He's like, well, what is this? Is kind of different from what you guys normally talk about. Guys, it all ties back in. This stuff all ties back into what's happening in society, why the markets are moving the way they're moving, why people are doing the things that they're doing with their money. Like, the thing that I've always appreciated the most about you, Ben, and the way that you think, is that there's an entirely different lens of looking at commerce when you understand society better. You sent me a really cool interview the other day that I loved, by the way. The interviewer and the interviewee was really good. And it's this guy, right, who's just an absolute legend in understanding culture, right? And those kinds of things, like, it gives you an unmatched advantage in life if you're trying to do this game of making money or whatever. Like, I cannot explain to you how much better off you are actually understanding that stuff than understanding what the Treasury's doing. Like, it almost becomes irrelevant when you understand how society actually works.
And I said that a long time ago on the pod, and I'm sure I sounded like extra crazy, but like, that's because that's what I've been studying for like my whole life. And that guy who you're referring to, super cool. I'll share that link in the community for anybody who wants to watch it. It's definitely worth a watch. And great episode. We'll have him on the show at some point, I'm sure, too, in the very near future. But when you start to see the world like that, it changes a lot of stuff. Like, it'll change the opportunities. It'll also change how you see opportunities too. And it'll also give you a lot more control over your emotional state. I think one of the biggest issues on the planet is how everyone is so reactionary because these platforms took advantage of people's primal instincts and they don't realize that's taking place, right? So their version of reality is like torture. And it actually is on like a chemical level, but they don't realize that because they do it every day.
Very well put, man. I think that's one of the biggest things that I took away from a totally separate interview recently was like, you only notice when people have weird relationships with stuff when it's not normal, when everyone isn't having it. But we all have these problems. We're all dealing with these types of issues. And so it looks like it's normal, but it's not.
It's and I use my phone a lot. So like, I'm not saying I'm immune to this whatsoever, but I do try to be conscious when I'm out in the real world. And it's I thought about this the other day. I was like, if an alien came to the ground and was like, "What's the dominant species?" I think they'd think it was the phone, not us.
I laugh, but that's actually so profound.
Yeah, I sat down after I thought about that. I was like, I need to challenge this for a sec.
Wow. Holy crap. It'd be like the internet.
Yeah,
Like the internet is like the God.
yeah.
That's a
it's-
crazy thought, bro.
Yeah, man. That's why sometimes I go on my deliberate walks with like no stimulation, because I also like this is nosy, but I love to listen to people's conversations to get like a pulse, because every conversation is a data point for like capturing sentiment. And like big cities give you like endless opportunities for that, man.
So
Because I can learn so much about so many different kinds of people in one walk, and I only need a few words to know what you were saying. Do you know what I'm saying? What?
No, I'm just thinking about that. I mean, a lot of people, if you take the average of the conversations that you're hearing, it's going to be a lot of the same stuff over time, right?
Over and
So,
over and over again. Because there's usually one person in the friend group who also is like the dominant social force, so they kind of shape it,
that's true.
right? So that's also scary. Of like, pay attention to who the leader is in your social group, because that's where you're all going to go.
Mm. Super fascinating, man. So that was the first episode that we did in the daytime was with Tim Fletcher, specifically talking about from a psychological perspective, trauma and how it can shape every decision that you make. And like to tie that back in, right? As a society, we're also all undergoing certain kinds of traumas.
Oh yeah,
And
and
those
it
can
shapes us
shape
so much.
100%. Like as an actual example, the Great Depression.
Mm-hmm.
All
Great
those
example.
people in those time, right? They don't buy stocks. They're like, no, I will never buy stocks.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care. My money's going under the mattress. I don't care.
Even when it's so undeniably irrational, right? Like that's such a good point, because my grandparents had experienced that, and so like I've talked with them on the show before. Like they only bought bonds, bro.
Mm,
If they had even the slightest bit of risk tolerance, they would be deca millionaires,
wow.
because of the compounding nature of that money, because they lived incredibly like frugally. And my grandpa took every promotion, so he moved around the entire country. So
Wow.
like they had bread, but they were buying bonds exclusively, pretty much, right? So like think of the compounding lost on that because of what they went through. So that's a perfect financial example, Keith.
Very well said, man. Very well put together and illustrated for us. Appreciate that, dude. So yes, that was episode 1 of the day. The second one that we had was with Nev, who is an awesome commentator, reporter, investigator, talking about big tech and how the incentives of all of those mechanisms end up messing around with how we see society today. We talked about whether or not we can ever escape internet surveillance. We talked a lot about crypto in that episode as well. So if you missed it and you're a crypto person, definitely go and check that one out. And if you
Mhm.
haven't already, also be sure that you go and check out the highlights channel, because we'll also be putting out highlights from all of these. So go and check out the highlights channel. Be sure to subscribe to that. You can find that in the description of any of our episodes. But also feel free to go and check it out in the meantime. Multimatic Mike said, love this episode. Crazy. This is the reality that we live in. What's funny is if you go back and watch movies and shows, they've been telling us the plans all along. Mass surveillance and control, microchips and people, AI becoming a god. It's all here.
Love it. That was a fun one. Definitely go give it a watch. Go show him some love as well. And definitely go subscribe to the highlights channel. Producer Asipa's been cooking on that. We're starting to really get moving there. And that'll be a great tool for you to onboard people into the memes and markets ecosystem by sending them an experience that's more consumable, more like straight line directional, and easy to share. So yeah, definitely go check out that. It's a great way to support the show. So I also wanted to double tap on this, if I may. Where Brandon said, fear controls everyone's decisions. That's like one of the most important concepts you can possibly grasp. Because when you really grasp that, you realize like fear is entirely in control. So you realize that the game is really overcoming your fear. Because like look around of like everyone, right? Their decisions are purely spurred on by like a trauma that's created a fear of like, I don't want to go back there. You know what I'm talking about? How like everyone has their God. You know, I've explained that concept before. Their God is like, what is their biggest fear? And then that shapes the way that they navigate through society completely. So I think that's why we have in the app for No Dice. I say, like, I purposely put in underneath the No Dice 45 tasks, which was stay curious and live fearless, or be fearless kind of deal. Because I think it's the tandem of those things that makes it so that you're so hard to control. Because you can't, if you adopt those philosophies every day in your life, you almost hate no one, right? And so it's very difficult to put you into a box to then be manipulated.
Super cool, man. It's straight up. It's right on. Let me see real quick. That's where
Stay
I'm
curious.
at too. Love it, love it, love it. So leads us right into what's going on with No Dice. I'm on day 20 at the moment.
Love it.
And I'm going to pull my challenges. I've definitely already gotten started today. So they got recognized again today, which was crazy.
That's awesome. Well, your Brazil content's snapping, so I'm sure that's why.
Yeah, man. Did you see my one from yesterday, dude? It's got almost 200K.
Whoa. Was
awesome.
it the one where you're walking in the street and saying the difference between America and Brazil, or is it different?
No, that one.
I saw that.
Yeah. Let's see. All right, yeah, I've definitely already gotten well on my way with these today. I've got recognized again today, which was crazy. Exercise, no gambling. I got to watch 30 minutes, say hello to 5 strangers, and then journal, folks. So I'm going to be journaling today. It's probably the one thing I got to make sure I get done. But yeah, folks,
love it.
Day 20 of No Dice 45. If you haven't already, definitely feel free to come and join us over there. This is an extremely fun challenge. I'm learning so much. I'm becoming a much better version of myself. And it's all happening through this app. And there's so much more that's coming into this app as well. We're literally just getting started in terms of what this looks like for how we're helping people to hold themselves and each other accountable to their goals in life. And so at the very minimum, I highly recommend join the community there as we are going. If you guys are posting about No Dice, you're going to get some promotion from us. We're going to retweet you. We're going to repost you on Instagram, that is, and show you love. And we're continuing to grow our platform. So as we do that and you support us, we'll do the same with you. And obviously doing No Dice 45 is something that's going to be fun and good for you as well. So check us out.
Totally. And do it with someone too that comes to mind, right? We've built in features to make this more of a community-led thing, because truthfully, our thesis is that like so many problems can be solved. All the tools are there, but there's no one solved accountability to yourself and to your goals. And that's really what the purpose of this is. So I know everybody watching this knows that they can be doing more, and they know that this is one of, if not the biggest reason why you're not, right? Because this is an excuse provider, like machine, like crazy, right? And so really what the goal is for No Dice and No Dice 45 is to make you step back and reassess that relationship that you have with this device. Who's in control of who?
That's it, man. That analogy you gave, man, that's so powerful. You should probably do something on that. Like if the aliens came down and saw us, who do they think's in charge?
You take it, man. You're a better presenter than me. But yeah, man, definitely come join us. We are working tirelessly on that thing. Our developers are working all the time to improve that thing. So the product that you start with today is only going to continue to get better. So on that topic of conversation, you will be getting an enhanced product week over week. Keith and I are spending so much time on this thing.
It's going to be freaking awesome. You guys are going to be blown away. And even now, I'd come and join us. As always, we're gonna make you a part of the journey.
And eventually when it really goes, we'll do a full product and all the we'll do a full episode on the product-based decisions, because we're spending like hours dissecting like every little decision in terms of how it gives you the experience that you want, which is why we're constantly making changes, is to make that the best possible. And so you guys also play a big role in shaping anything that we build, right? Which is something we're always going to preach in terms of like, you take care of us, we'll take care of you, because we believe in that as well. So I know you can improve your life with the tool, and then also give us feedback in terms of how we can make it even better. So that way you're getting even more return on your investment.
Love it. Yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun, bro. When it's time to really do the full breakdown of making this whole thing happen the way that it has.
Totally. We can bring on a Seam or something. That'd be a fun reason to bring him on.
Yes.
Cool.
Love it.
Sweet. Well, that's all for me, Keith. Anything from you?
That's it for me. Appreciate you guys for being here. Genuinely down from the bottom of my heart.
Let's say what up to some people.
Yep. Lucas
RD, welcome back.
Yes, welcome back, RD. Let's go. Was in Hawaii, y'all. So
I hope that was amazing.
Yeah, I know you had some troubles with the storms and stuff, but I hope other than that, you enjoyed it.
Let me say what up to some people. I'm just pulling up the chat here. So we've got Brandon, Lucas, RD, welcome back. Tio, how are you now? Mainstay, and also very active in the community. So if you've seen all the awesome stuff that How Are You Now has dropped in the chats over the episodes, huge contributor in the community too. So we got great vibes, great people in there. We got Sarah, who also joined the community. Welcome, welcome. Excited to say hi to you in there. Mary, what's going on? Lee Entertainment, Noxo, Chad, what up? Appreciate you. And yeah, I think it's the most recent people. Oh, and then more monkey business. How can I forget about you? My resident troll.
Let's go. Teo, Sarah, how are you now? Appreciate you guys so much. Chadwick, all the folks, appreciate you. Shout out to some of the newcomers as well. If you're new, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, turn on the notification bell. Okay, because we go live every Tuesday and Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern. And if you don't have it on, you might miss it.
Even if you have it on, double check, because sometimes there's some shit where YouTube won't send out the noti. And then also, yes, great call, producer Asipa. Also, shout out to producer Asipa for holding it down. But yeah, share the episode with anybody that you think may enjoy this community or want to learn some of these subjects. And I also, we haven't mentioned this enough times too, Keith, is that because our show is live, YouTube's UI UX is truly not up to date with like how prevalent lives are now. So when you go to our channel, come on, focus for me. You see how the first tab, am I going too high? Is videos, right? So everyone who comes to our channel, they go to videos and they think we only have 3 episodes because we've only posted 3 videos. The rest have been live streams, which is the further over tab.
Couldn't we, the way you did the shorts, couldn't we do that with the videos too?
If we deleted them.
You couldn't just hide it?
Well, we could hide it, but they're pretty good shit.
Yeah, don't get me wrong.
No, there's some, I'd say those are probably 2 of our better episodes.
I know, and it's legendary because it's the very beginning.
Yeah, I don't think we can get rid of it. Like, eventually this shit won't matter because people are getting more accustomed to watching live streams day over day. That's just another reason why we haven't grown as much, is because just think of the conversion, right? They come here, they're interested, they click videos because that's what they've been trained to do thousands of times. Yeah. This guy's only posted 3 times. None of these appeal to me. I'm out.
Totally. Yeah. So what Ben is saying is share this with people so that people can understand what's going on here, the format, the vibes, and grow this community. And now you guys have an incentive to do it. If you join the private Discord, you've got an okay reason to do it because now you guys are in on the club. All right. But if you guys have not joined the private community yet, then I can see why you might be hesitant to share. You know, you might be like, oh, I don't know, man. This might be something I might not be willing to share. So join the private community.
Yeah.
And make sure that you share this stuff with everybody so that we can grow the family and make this a big thing. But seriously, if you join the private community, you have locked in your place in this community.
I promise you, if this is something you've wanted, you'll be happy that you did it. That's the only promise. I'm not saying if you didn't want this, you had no interest, totally cool. Don't. But if you thought about it and you went there and you're like, okay, even if the price tag was like too high, you thought, you'll get a solid return on your investment. I will make that a priority of mine to make sure that happens.
Love it.
And so one thing from Abs, can you guys speak on balancing goals with personal life? When striving for something great, oftentimes it takes your all. Any thoughts? I'd love to hear your thoughts first, Keith.
I think my thoughts are not good ones. I don't know that I think about it too much. I think I only think about balancing my life in a way that makes all of these things one thing. Like, that's kind of how I look at it.
I like that.
Yeah. Like I don't separate it. It's like my business professional life is the things that I want to do with my life. And so if people, like, there's people, for instance, that I want to be with me as I'm doing these things. And so, like, how can I make them or get them to want to be around me or do things that make them, I don't know. Like, I just want to be able to like wake up and just exist. And I feel like everything I'm doing is working towards that.
I think that's an amazing place that you can get to, and that's the goal, right? But I love the way you frame that, and yeah, I'd say I don't think I'd say anything too dissimilar to Keith, where like I'm so lucky that even though I work like all the time, I wouldn't be doing anything else, right? Like I'm doing the stuff that I actually want to be doing, and so that's also why I think the world can get super positive in a potential scenario as we move forward if it democratizes access to these technologies to people doing what they want, right? Because people weren't built to work, they were built to create. But how many people are actually creating, right? Like I have unlimited energy because I'm always creating.
Mm-hmm.
Very few people can relate to that experience because they've been a cog in the machine, just going through and hating every part of it. Where I was just super lucky, where very young, I was like, yo, this is all horseshit. And I stopped caring, right? So that's why I started doing things so young in entrepreneurship, just because I was able to spot that pattern of, okay, everyone's telling me things, but it's a story that they've been told. It's not their story. I thought about that. I'm like, why did I know it was horseshit? I'm like, because I could tell they were lying because they thought they were telling the truth, but it wasn't their story. It was one that was given to them.
Mm.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's a big thing. And I think when you're doing what you love, like I know it's so cliche to say, but if you don't work a day in your life, it also gives you a unique advantage, right? Because like I know they won't outwork me. They can't. It's not possible. You can't. So like it also comes with that. I think that has to come from being sure in yourself. And yeah, I think that comes down to like watching the trauma guy, like Tim that we had on most recently, and exploring what currently controls you, coming to peace with that. Because we all have those things, right? Like I've had to go through inordinate amounts of pain to get to any of the places that we're talking about today. Like, and I'm sure as we grow, Keith, you and I will be able to go share stories that we've shared more personally in a contextual environment where that makes sense. But
sure.
Yeah, and then people will see, like, that's really the whole point of the show, right? Hope that answered your question in any way, shape, or form, Abs.
I love it. And like apps, like for instance, like I'm exploring a new place and having fun while doing it. Like what I've done, Abs, is I've started making this a part of what I'm doing, right? So I was just talking about a little bit earlier, like, oh, I've got a short that just popped off. I literally just was walking around yesterday. I just had a thought to myself. I filmed myself with a thought, and it's got 200,000 views on Instagram about the differences between the US and Brazil. Like, oh, okay. Now that page has 1,000 followers. I can continue on that thread. I can compound on that. And like, that's so much easier than some of the stuff that I might have to do for some of these other things. And it's like, okay, well, if I can just double, triple down, quadruple down on that thing for a little bit in little ways, right? Like, because it's so much easier, boom. Okay, now that becomes something that's a way bigger part of my life than I expected it to be, but it's literally just me existing. So also, Abs, we have so much leverage already that we have to acknowledge in the skill sets that we have, in the audiences that we have. Like, people love you, Abs.
Yeah, and the
So
person
how
you are
can
is what I was about to say.
Yeah.
That's something that you can't buy.
That's fair.
Right. One point that's super, and you nailed that, Keith. But the point that I wanted to say is really timely. I love how this stuff all works. Perfect example is I was in the middle of writing an article for my Substack and Twitter about how like the over optimization, like excuse for artists is horseshit. It always has been horseshit, and it's just an excuse, right? Because like people who like say I'm a strategist, like why do I need to like make everything optimized? It's like that's never been my thesis. I'm not saying to optimize yourself out of passion. I'm saying you owe it to the people that could consume your art to maximize the exposure of that art. Do you know what I'm saying? Like everyone just has this bullshit excuse. They're like, why do you so care about the numbers? I'm like, why are you doing it in the first place? Do you not want the people who could want this to see it? So like the whole, because like I've had this debate with so many artists, and they always give me the same bullshit. They're like, I'd lose my passion for it, man. It's like, you don't have to. Do literally exactly what you're always going to do, but do it in a way understanding that there's parameters that you can get right for more people to see it. That's like if you go to my older YouTube channel, like that's all I've been talking about. It was never like making you do something you don't want. It's here's exactly what you want to do. Here's how you maximize that so that you help as many people as possible and you get the most out of it to enjoy your life. You know what I'm saying?
I love that. When I think about art, I have troubles explaining that, but I think you put it in a very good way because it's like, yeah, like my art, my music is, I make it from what I think is cool.
Totally.
But that doesn't mean that I'm not gonna tweak it to make it something that's gonna be a global hit. You know what I mean? Like
it's also so ridiculous because that excuse is so flawed because the optimization piece, if you study content, like the packaging is the disproportionate return on the time, right? So if you're an artist, if you spent like a month learning that skill, you don't even have to think about it. You know what I mean? This resistance is all horseshit, but like it's a very convenient way to align with your current view of the world and why you're stuck, right? And that's another thing too, where the fear thing is. That's why everyone's fucking full of excuses, bro. The amount of excuses that people have, and they're all horseshit. And even like I have excuses, and I'll catch myself and be like, "You're full of shit. That's a lie." Do you know what I'm saying? Like I'll be mid like saying something, and I'll stop myself, and I'll be like, "You're fucking lying to yourself."
I need to download that Claude skill right there. I need to download that.
It's not easy to do. It's just
skill.
like the understanding of like everything you get wrong is not a failure; it's an opportunity, right? Because like I've had so many flaws in my life over the years that I've just had to work on, but I was willing to work on them. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that's one thing that I found is that most people who get really cynical, it's because they were hit with hard points and they made that their story instead of like a chapter in a good story.
Totally.
Do you know what I mean? Because like there's been so many instances in my life where I'm like, this could have been someone's entire existence, where like this was why everything went against me, right? This is why everything didn't happen my way. But it's equally because I was there. I'm like, or this can be the reason why it does. And you've done that a bunch.
So beautiful, man. I mean, when I'm going through those harder moments, I won't say that I've like manufactured them, but I definitely was like, oh, this is exactly what part of the story it is.
Bro, everything's perfect. Everything is perfect. Like it's actually so true when you realize that, because people say like, oh, you got to make yourself delusional to the point of seeing it like that. But the universe will bend when you fully accept that, right? So I'll give one example. I went through like horrible bouts of depression numerous times in my life. And the moment I was like, okay, where is the lesson in like what would kill everyone else? I got a superpower.
Mm.
And it's like, and if you think about what your dreams were as a kid, right? I've thought about this deeply because I wrote down my goals really young. And I'm like, I remember thinking about that list. And I'm like, there's no world where the person who has these things has an easy life. It's impossible. It's actually impossible, right? But it took me so long of like pointing the finger to realize, wow, this is for me.
Mm. So powerful, man.
Yeah, and this is a perfect point, Noxo. Like you got to confront it, but lower the stakes of confronting it, right? Like when you start like actively saying, I screwed up here, or I did this wrong, the stakes just diminish so greatly. And then you realize like, oh my God, that's the cheat code. It's just admitting that I'm like everybody else. Like society has created this ridiculous stance where an imperfection is seen as like failure. Talking back to the whole primal instincts thing. I feel like you should become obsessed with failing as long as it's iterative.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. You snapped, man. It's like so many people are, I think the social media thing is the thing that keeps coming to mind. It's just like, oh, like,
Because they're stuck.
should I post? Like, should I not? I'm scared to post. And then it's the thing that always, I think, compelled me was always, I just, for some reason, had this innate feeling that it wasn't about me.
Can you expand on that, please?
Yeah. So like, I had a moment, this is super random, guys, but I'll tell you guys about it. I was like 5 years old, and there was a play that was happening in the school. And I was Martin Luther. I actually think this was like a legitimate, like, I think this made my life in a lot of ways. Like, I think this is a huge moment in my life. I was casted to do Martin Luther King in this little play. And like, I kind of snapped on it. Like, I had some natural thing that like matched the vibe of like this little 5-year-old being Martin Luther King.
That's so awesome. I got chills.
And so that was like weeks after that, I think one of my teachers at school was like, you're gonna be famous one day, whatever, something like that. And anyways, just like I totally forgot where I was coming from. Oh, but it just something very young. Just I guess like in that moment, I like connected with him and like his mission. He was a martyr. He died, right, for that cause. And so it's like I don't know, something in me deeply said like a lot of whatever is going to happen in my life, the things that I'm going through, stuff that I'm doing, like it's not about me. You know, it's like there's people that are actually suffering, and there's more that can be done for those people. You know, so
That's beautiful, man. And that also really helps play into the conversation of that diminishes stakes greatly when you realize that. Right? It's not even about you. What are you worried about?
exactly.
You know what I mean? And I will also say, I knew that the first time I saw your video too. So I think that is real. And also, we all are connected to something. Pick your word. Jiang uses the divine, but it's a concept that like I've wrestled with my entire existence. And you'll notice that the people who live in great lives, they just listen when it talks. Most people don't hear it because they've drowned it out the signals because they ignored it so often. So even when it comes in, it's so faint that they think it's nothing. But when you start letting it in, it comes more frequently. It comes louder.
Mm.
It's an insane thing.
That's real, man. You sent me that clip from Tobias Lutke yesterday too. The Shopify guy talking to the Entrepreneur's Founder podcast guy, and he talked a little bit about some of that kind of a thing where it's just like there's just something about like every single one of these people throughout history, when you really listen to them, it's like those types of things are always kind of present. It's always this like kind of internal thing of deciding also like what's the way you're gonna go about
Totally.
you know the harder things and whatnot.
Well, thank you for sharing that story, man. That was awesome.
Appreciate you guys listening.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks for these are. I just want to say a thank you to everyone who's here and participating, because I got all like the connection piece is why you do it, you know. So just know we care.
100%, 100%, man. Appreciate you guys, and if nothing else, definitely make today the best day of your life, folks.
That's it. Be the light that you want to see, and we will see all of you on Tuesday. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.